Chapter 341, Brave Tony, Online Pit Brother. The giant sun slipped behind Gotham's skyscrapers. Darkness crept into the luxury hotel suite and finally swallowed the room. The crystal chandelier in the living area stayed unlit. The only light came from Diana's lasso of truth, its soft glow tracing the shadows. The lasso was a divine artifact, unbreakable, and anyone bound by it couldn't lie. Leon wasn't sure he'd even be affected. His energy level was comparable to a star, yet comic book logic was fickle, so he took precautions. It wasn't him who was bound. It was Tony. Poor, brave Tony. Tony had set himself up in a corner of the living room with Jarvis. When Leon had returned that afternoon with the two girls, the atmosphere had been delicate. Jarvis nudged Tony, and he'd perked up, rearranged some nanomaterials into a makeshift recliner, poured a cup of coffee, and waited with the eagerness of someone watching a slow-motion car crash. He was so pleased. The corners of his eyes creased into little lines of anticipation. Leon, the schemer, would finally get his comeuppance. If Leon had ruined things as a kid, now was the time to stir things up a little when the girls questioned him. Add a little fuel to the fire. What harm was that? But the evening didn't go as Tony had imagined. Leon sat across from Diana and Kara and began to tell his story. He started with awakening his bloodline and planning to sunbathe in space for 2.5 years. He spoke of rescuing widow operatives from the Red Room and saving the biohazard world. He went on about Hydra, Dormammu, and the Skrulls. As his tale unspooled, the two women stopped looking angry. Their faces softened, their eyes fixed on Leon. Awe lit them like a halo. Tony slapped his forehead. Of course, the savior angle. What young woman could resist the idea that the man she liked was a hero who saved worlds? They were falling for the image, not the man. He had to stop it. He stood up with theatrical indignation and slapped his thigh. "Ladies, you're missing the real issue," he declared. He pointed straight at Leon's weak spot. "What Leon did in the past doesn't change the fact that he's deceiving your feelings. So what if he saved the world? Does that give him the right to mislead you? And besides," Tony continued, earnest and blustery, "he's saved other worlds too. What does that have to do with you here?" He pushed on, putting on a noble, self-sacrificing expression. "You should ask him properly. Which one of you is he going to choose?" Tony basked in his own righteousness, waiting for the drama. He sat back down, took a sip of coffee, and watched the three through the steam rising from his cup. But before the coffee had even reached his throat, he nearly choked. The plan was already unraveling. "But Leon didn't just save the world," Diana said, tilting her head. "He saved me." "Me too," Kara added. "He rescued me from that lead house." Tony almost fell out of his recliner. He had expected anger. Instead, the girls were affirming Leon's heroism. He pushed one last point. "That may be, but Mr. Stark is right. Leon, why do you attract so many women?" Diana had meant to ask that earlier, when Leon mentioned meeting 2 or 3 girls in one world and another couple elsewhere. Kara nodded in agreement. Tony was quietly satisfied that his intervention had borne fruit. Then Leon lowered his head and sighed. It was a long, weary sigh, the kind that made everyone around him wince. He covered his cheek with one hand and spoke with melodramatic sorrow. "It's because my brother is Tony." "What?" Tony blurted. He looked around in confusion. Had he really been made responsible for Leon's romantic tendencies? Leon went on, painting a scene that was too vivid to be entirely innocent. "I was adopted. After my adoptive parents died, Tony raised me. He loved me so much, he took me everywhere. When he went to parties to pick up beautiful women, he'd hang me around his neck. When things heated up at night, he'd put me aside to watch." Tony froze. He did remember telling Jarvis to look after Leon sometimes. Diana and Kara's expressions softened. Pity creased their faces. Leon continued, shifting into a tone half confession, half sermon. "You can see how childhood shapes a person," he said. "Diana grew up hearing stories of gods from her mother, so she wanted to be a hero from a young age, to resolve Ares' conflicts and bring peace. Kara's parents taught her kindness, and even after years of imprisonment, she didn't want to drag innocent people into revenge. I'm like that too. I started remembering things very early, and the only parental figure I had was Tony. When I was 1 or 2, I didn't understand what adults did at night. I only remember Tony coming home each evening with a different woman. The next day, they would leave, sometimes sad, sometimes elated. From then on, a thought sprouted in my heart. All the women of the world are so pitiable. I can't just look after someone for a day like Tony does. I want to make everyone smile for life. It was all a fabrication. Leon the Transmigrator had been sharp even as a child, but it was plausible enough. Anyone who'd watched a friend take a parade of companions might be shaped by it. Some people might get disgusted and want to destroy the world. Others might become callous. Leon's story hit home. Even Tony, who'd been bracing for a fight, felt a twinge of guilt, a small, uncomfortable self-reproach for the example he believed he'd set. Jarvis, unerringly polite, commented dryly, "Sir, from the standpoint of family education, you have been negligent." Tony laughed awkwardly and pretended to take another sip of coffee, hiding his face behind the cup. Chapter 342. Jarvis, please cremate me. Tony's guilty expression only added weight to Leon's accusation. Diana looked incredulous. "Your brother, this Mr. Stark, is actually that terrible?" Kara said nothing, but her eyes were full of contempt for Tony. He could no longer bury his head in the sand. He stammered denials, insisting it was all a misunderstanding, then jumped up as if to escape the embarrassment. Then his thoughts shifted mid-sprint, and, for a moment, he talked himself into justification. He only had Pepper as a girlfriend. Wasn't that devotion enough? He'd strictly controlled Leon. Those 2 or 3 girlfriends in high school had been dismissed with a little cash, couldn't stand up to any real test. Wasn't that proof he'd been a good guardian? Half of his guilt faded as he clung to that narrative. To save face and needle Leon a little, he adopted a righteous tone. "Leon, I only had Pepper. Smearing my name doesn't make your philandering reasonable." "Diana, take off your truth lasso," Leon snapped. "Truth lasso?" Diana blinked, surprised, then realized what Leon meant. She had subconsciously touched the lasso at her waist. It hummed with authority. Before she could think, Leon lunged, brought the protesting, bearded uncle to the floor and pinned him. "Tie him up! I want to see if this brother has even a shred of guilt." Oh, Diana stammered, flustered but obedient. She unfastened the lasso and quickly stepped forward. Tony protested between struggling. "What are you doing? We can talk this out. No need for violence." "You are being interrogated, suspect," Leon said grimly. "Start with how many cover girls you had when I was little. Then write a self-reflection of no less than 1,000 words. He pointed at Tony like an accusing officer. Tony sneered, ready to turn the tables and accuse Leon of his own affairs. Jill, Ada, Wanda. But under the pull of the truth lasso, his defenses crumbled. He began to talk, and it all poured out. The women from the past decade, the initial thrill, the later enjoyment, then the habituation. The story wasn't a thriller, but it had its arcs. He could still recall most of them. Names blurred, but he described in vivid, shameful detail who had a slender waist and long legs, who had hips that swayed like waves. The lasso didn't just force him to speak, it forced him to relive it. His face went from alarm to hollow defeat. He tried to resist, but his words kept tumbling out, accelerating and unstoppable. Diana and Kara listened with a mixture of disbelief and growing contempt. Then his tone shifted. He began to confess the guilt he actually felt. After the deaths of Mr. and Mrs. Howard, he'd fallen into decadence and failed to care for Leon properly. That neglect explained many absurdities. As he spoke, regret reshaped his expression into genuine remorse. Diana and Kara's impressions softened. He might have been promiscuous, but he could still be a responsible brother. When Tony finally ran out of words, Diana withdrew the lasso. Both girls believed Leon's version of events completely. "None of this is your fault, Leon. You just grew up in a terrible environment," Diana said, taking his hand. "You became upright despite it. That makes you a real hero." Leon accepted her hand, inwardly pleased. He'd always imagined being called a hero someday. The feeling nudged up a flash of déjà vu. Homelander had once tried to fool a little girl the same way. He pushed that aside. "I understand. To see life's truth and still love life, that's bravery. Diana, when you come to the human world and learn human nature, you'll be the same." Diana's image of him solidified. Kara watched them quietly, eyes fixed on the joined hands, lips pressed together. Leon surprised her by taking her hand too. "Okay, my story's over? Satisfied? It's late. Everyone should get some sleep." He shepherded a flushed, pleased Kara back to her room and led Diana into his own, wrapping them in the faint hum of his biofield. The living room emptied. Only Tony remained on the sofa, staring up at a smear of moonlight through the French doors. The light made his face look damp with tears. "Jarvis, what did I say?" Tony asked, voice hollow. "Sir," Jarvis replied in that calm, clinical tone, "you recited in detail the notable women from the last decade and then delivered a heartfelt confession. If you wish to confess again, I can be your temporary priest and tell you that God will forgive you," Jarvis added helpfully. "No, book me a plot near Gotham," Tony said, voice drained. "I think I can be cremated now." "Certainly, sir. Do you prefer a private mausoleum or the standard city cemetery?" Jarvis asked, efficient as ever. Tony muttered to himself, sinking further into self-reproach. "I'm so foolish. I shouldn't have tried to humiliate that kid Leon. Every time he pulls me into his drama, I'm a fool." The next day was peaceful to the point of idyllic. Leon walked Kara and Diana through Gotham, as if teaching them to read a new culture. Diana was naive and romantic. She squealed at a baby in a stroller and ran over to inspect it with exaggerated delight. When trying on clothes, she lifted her leg theatrically to see if a dress would interfere with combat, until Leon gently explained local etiquette and customs. Kara was quieter, composed. She watched with interest, tried on a pretty dress, and asked Leon's opinion, and if he approved, she handed it calmly to the clerk for packaging. Tony had funded the outing. He and Jarvis had converted enough modestly legal income from the internet to cover their purchases. In one of his repentant moments, he handed his credit card to Leon and told him to take the two girls out of sight, out of mind. The world seemed unusually at peace. The Kryptonian problem was settled. The Third World War had ended. Batman had resurfaced and returned to Wayne Manor for something resembling retirement. Barry Allen, the Flash, had finally proven his identity to his parents and gone back to his family. Through Leon's superhearing, the city sounded quiet, no imminent catastrophes registered. He planned to take the mother box with him when he left. Everything would be stable until his next visit, probably a time when Diana missed home. While Diana deliberated over a cake at a bakery, Leon's expression froze. A sudden clarity snapped into place. In his mind's eye, chains of law, the rules that held time and space together, appeared and began to fracture. Broken links tried to rejoin, but the pattern wasn't destruction so much as repetition. It's not destruction, he realized coldly. It's a reset. There was only one explanation in this universe. Barry Allen was resetting the world again. Leon's eyes narrowed. "Barry, what are you doing, Barry?" Leon's mind short-circuited the moment he realized the world was restarting. It felt as absurd as going out for hot pot and karaoke, only to be robbed by bandits halfway through. Nothing in this world could be more nonsensical. He looked toward Central City. His gaze pierced thousands of kilometers and found Barry at home, helping his mother cook. Barry was smiling so happily, his eyes couldn't hide his affection. How could this Barry be the one restarting the world? In any case, Barry was still here, who was actually causing the restart. Leon could feel the time of the entire world shattering and reshaping. If time were a river, the upstream was drying up and the downstream was flooding. The middle, where he stood, could only wait for the water level to fall to its lowest, exposing the riverbed. The fish in the river would die. When the water returned, new fish would spawn. From that perspective, the most likely explanation was that future Earth had run into another crisis. A world that had lost most of its superheroes couldn't cope, so the future Barry must have chosen to change the past and restart the timeline. Restarting time in the DC universe wasn't like Marvel's branching timelines. Here, a restart didn't create a new branch. It erased the previous time and everyone in it, refreshed them, like slimes respawning at a set spawn point in a game. The code looked the same, but it was a brand new slime. Leon had no way to stop this. It had already begun. Like reinstalling an operating system, trying to stop it halfway would only crash the whole machine. There was one remote option: pull Wolf Superman over and force him into Golden Superman mode again. But Wolf Superman's idealism wasn't a pistol safety you could flick off on demand, so Leon didn't hesitate. He chose to take people and run. He called to Diana and Kara, who were sharing cake, and instantly pulled them back to the hotel room. Tony lay on the sofa, turning and twisting, sulking about last night. He looked like he'd stew for a long time, Years later, he'd still be stamping his feet at the memory and yelling a few choice curses. Are you imitating Rose from Titanic, propping your head on the sofa and squirming around? Leon stepped forward and slapped Tony. Time is urgent. Stop sneaking in tissues, Miss Stark. We have to go. Tony shot up. Go. Where? What happened? Wait, what did you just call me? Sorry. I thought I saw a 30-year-old woman squirming around and mistook you for a female Tony from a parallel world. If I were a female Tony, I'd slap you right back, Tony snorted, then grabbed an arc reactor and hurled it at Leon. Leon caught it easily. We have to go. Flash has restarted the world. If we don't leave quickly, we'll be restarted with it. Barry? Why would he restart the world? Tony frowned. How much time do we have? Diana's brow furrowed. What does restart the world mean? It means the Flash traveled through time to change the past and is reshaping everything, Leon said. Time isn't strictly linear. Any change can have a butterfly effect on past and future, and it ripples outward. He gave a blunt example. It's happened before. In another version, Kara's cousin came to Earth instead of her, and after the restart, Kara's cousin died. That's the kind of impact a restart causes. Kara's eyes froze. Can we stop him? It's too late, Leon said. Tony's worry shifted to practicalities. How many people can you take with you? How many can you save? Tony imagined memories being erased, life's meaning tied to remembered experiences. If Leon could only take him and Jarvis and leave Diana and Kara behind, then after the restart, even meeting again would mean nothing. Their shared history would be gone. He was instinctively protective of his friends. Leon underestimated him. I can take a lot. Even a small mountain of people like you would be fine. Tony blinked, suddenly relieved. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. What are you dawdling for, Miss Leon? Leon shook his head. There are things to do. The universe is vast. Restarting takes time. How long? What else do you need to do? Probably another 10 minutes. The chain reaction of time reshaping begins at the far future and the far past. It'll take a little while to reach us. He looked at Diana. She was the most anxious. Her mother and tribe were on the other side of the world in the Black Sea. Would those familiar faces still be the people she knew after the restart? Don't worry, Leon said. I can travel between worlds so I can avoid the restart. I'll take you all with me. Diana's bewildered eyes brightened. You mean? That's right. We'll take Paradise Island with us. Leon brushed Diana's cheek. I'll bring you into my inner world first, then release you when it's safe. What is an inner world? Diana asked, curiosity overtaking fear. I'll explain later. Leon folded his control over the world and pulled Tony and Kara into his inner world. Then, taking Diana's hand, he vanished from the hotel. Thousands of kilometers slipped away in the blink of an eye. He brought Diana to Paradise Island and explained the situation directly to Queen Hippolyta. Hippolyta confirmed repeatedly that even if their Paradise Island disappeared during the restart, another island would appear afterward. That reassurance let her consent to Leon's plan. She had no fondness for humans, but like every Amazon, she knew their duty to protect the world. If their leaving would remove the Amazon's protection, she would have refused and stayed. When the warriors no longer insisted on staying, Leon took the Amazons and Paradise Island into his inner world. The divine power left by Zeus offered little resistance. With a careful effort, Leon detached the entire island from the continental shelf. Filled with respect for the Amazons' unwavering dedication to Earth, he moved on. His next stops were Gotham and Central City to find Batman and the Flash. Chapter 344, Take Barry's Mom Away. As expected, Batman turned down Leon's offer to hide from the reboot. He didn't think fleeing to meet another Bruce Wayne in a post-reboot world would help. No matter which world he went to, they were still Batman, and none of it would suddenly give him living parents. Leon argued that in some timelines, Bruce died while Thomas and Martha Wayne survived, but after a beat of thought, Bruce refused. All right, Leon said. Then stay. Be someone who knows the truth and protects the world's history. He nodded toward Batman's liquor cabinet. By the way, moments like this call for something stronger. For example, rectified spirit, the water of life, 96%. It'll make you feel your courage burn from your toes to your head. Batman glanced at the cabinet in silence. Good suggestion. I'll play Tchaikovsky's Sixth to go with it. Leon raised an eyebrow. That's appropriately mournful. Farewell, Bruce. Goodbye, Leon. Leaving Wayne Manor, Leon found Barry Allen in a small house in Central City. Barry was eating spaghetti his mother had made. Leon said bluntly, "Barry, you rebooted the world again. Do you know that?" "What? Me? Why would I reboot the world?" Barry looked confused. "You'll have to ask the you who did it, that you came from the future," Leon said. While speaking, he quietly took a drop of Barry's blood and slipped it into Barry's inner world for the black light clone to absorb. Barry didn't notice. He only shoved back his chair and leapt up. "You mean the future me came back and changed things?" he asked, panic rising. Why would he do that? He'd been living a peaceful life here, his mother alive, his father not in prison. There was no reason to reboot the world. Then Barry whispered, "Oh, Steppenwolf. It must be Steppenwolf again." He paced, frantic. Without Superman, who else could stop him? It's over. It's all over. Leon watched Barry sink into despair and felt a stab of pity. Why don't you enter the Speed Force and ask your future self why he rebooted the timeline? In their world, different versions of Barry can meet inside the Speed Force. The Speed Force even had a thing called the Time Bowl, allowing speedsters to step outside time and travel through it. Barry snapped upright at the suggestion, raising a finger as if an idea had lit up. "You're right. I have to ask him why he rebooted the timeline." He crouched into a short-track speed skating stance. Running that way in the Speed Force used less stamina, and then flashed off. "I'm going." He vanished in an instant. Leon detected him running a few circuits outside the house before he dove through time and disappeared. "The Speed Force really is convenient," Leon mused. "Leon! Leon!" Before he could finish, Barry reappeared, stumbling in, breathless, and stopped in front of him. "It's Darkseid," he panted. "My future self said you took the mother box, but Steppenwolf and Darkseid still came to Earth." Fear filled Barry's eyes. "Darkseid drained the Earth's core. The whole world was destroyed. No alliance could stop that tyrant. I know. He had to reboot the universe, to undo the destruction he caused, to change everything back." Barry's face crumpled. "I can't save Mom. The price to save her is the world's destruction." He was still young, only a few years into his work at the lab. All he'd ever wanted was to undo his mother's brutal death. The Speed Force had given him hope, but the hope came with a cruel follow-up. Sometimes you couldn't win. He lowered his head and ground his teeth. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault." Leon watched him for a long moment, then reached out and patted Barry's shoulder. "Maybe I can help in a small way. I can take your mother out of this world, hide her somewhere safe, and bring her back after the reboot ends." "Really?" Barry looked up, stunned. "Of course," Leon said. "But you have to tell your future self not to try to get your father acquitted by fiddling with the position of a tomato can so the camera catches his face. That sort of meddling can reboot the timeline again." Barry remembered, in a previous timeline, his actions had freed his father but also triggered another reboot, one that shifted the DCEU into the gun-led DCU, changing Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and more. Barry nodded rapidly. "I will. I'll tell him. Leon, I'll take your mother now." Leon led Barry to the bedroom and, with the consentless deftness of someone who manipulated inner worlds for a living, guided Alan, Barry's mother, into his own inner world. Barry watched as she disappeared and immediately exhaled in relief. "I'll tell my future self right away," Barry said, grateful, and bolted back into the Speed Force. Logically, Leon thought, removing Barry's mother now should alter the future Barry's timeline. But the world was already in the process of rebooting. This moment had begun to sever from whatever future it would have become. Once a reboot had started, changes at this point no longer affected the disconnected future. Barry didn't return after 10 or more seconds. Time wouldn't wait. Leon didn't linger. He stepped out into the sky and shot toward Philadelphia. To an ordinary eye, the city looked like any modern metropolis, but in the DCEU, it was the threshold to the Eternal Rock, the Wizard's gathering place. In the comics, it was Fawcett City. In the movie Shazam, it had been moved to Philadelphia. The Eternal Rock was presided over by the Wizard Shazam. Once, his siblings had gathered there too, but now they were all gone. Shazam himself was aging and increasingly struggled to keep the 7 deadly sins sealed within the rock. Those sins, embodiments of the 7 cardinal vices, were potent. In DC Future State, they even defeated a golden Superman. In the DCEU, their power wasn't quite so extreme, but they were still a grave threat. Shazam had been searching for a successor, a child with a pure heart and a strong sense of justice, for decades, even a century, with no suitable candidate. He wasn't desperate. He could wait another century if needed. Until that day, a young man in a pitch-black battle suit inexplicably broke into the Eternal Rock. "Old wizard," he said, cutting through the silence. "The end of the world is coming. Do you want a successor or not?" Chapter 345, Old Wizard, do you want an heir? How did you get in? Old Wizard Shazam, who had been listlessly leaning against his stone chair, snapped his eyes open like a corpse prized from a coffin by an undertaker. He looked around instinctively. The familiar stone throne and the great boulder confirmed he hadn't sleepwalked into the outside world. This was still his sanctuary. For centuries, no one had entered here except the children he himself had guided to the Eternal Rock. In modern terms, this was his secret base. Yet the man standing before him had no key, no invitation. He had simply walked in. "I'm Lion Stark. I'm also a magic user." When traveling, identities are self-proclaimed. In front of Clark, Lion could pass as an Earthling with a Kryptonian bloodline. In front of Shazam, of course, he presented himself as a sorcerer. He traced a circle in the air with his right hand and conjured the familiar Kamar Taj-style portal. "See, that's how I came in. There's a magic node in Philadelphia that opens an entrance to the Eternal Rock," Lion explained casually. "I tried a mystic art and slipped through." He said it like finding a door and using a master key. No big deal. Shazam's inner alarm flared. Eternal Rock couldn't possibly be accessed by a simple teleport. A caster of this caliber breaking in so brazenly must have an ulterior motive. Shazam tightened his grip on the staff of the gods and rose from his stone throne, descending the steps with an imposing presence. For thousands of years, countless villains have tried to release the demons sealed here, and their ends have all been the same: dust, he warned. "Before you tread toward an irreversible fate, you'd best ask yourself what you're truly doing, stranger." The visitor tilted his head slightly, showing just enough intimidation to be promising. Good. This magic user wasn't a complete fool, Shazam thought. Then Lion added, with a tone of casual bluntness that suggested Shazam had been spacing out. "No offense, Wizard Shazam. Were you perhaps daydreaming just now? You didn't hear what I said at the start." Shazam blinked. The first time Lion had spoken, he hadn't caught it. "What did you say? Say it again." Lion, respectful of age and patient, repeated himself. "The world outside is restarting. I've come to bring you an heir." Shazam's eyes narrowed. "So you want to inherit my power?" "Young man," Shazam scolded, adopting the old man grumble. "Next time you speak to an elder, speak clearly." He wasn't embarrassed by the misunderstanding. Instead, he turned it into an advantage. He circled Lion, the staff tapping the stone with measured thuds, his gaze sharpening. He hadn't seen a mage with such aptitude in a very long time. Indeed, he hadn't seen an unannounced visitor in ages. "Not bad," Shazam murmured, stopping in front of Lion. His stern expression softened. "You want my power?" he repeated, more certain now. Lion felt as if he were on a butcher's bench, being inspected for some stamp of approval. "Actually, it's not me." I know everything," Shazam interrupted, wearing the look of a man who's seen it all. "I've been secluded here for millennia. The world outside has forgotten me. That you found your way here from scraps in ancient books is remarkable." He turned back up the steps, his staff echoing softer and then firmer taps. "You have potential, yes, but potential alone is not enough to inherit my power." When he paused at the highest step and looked at Lion again, a smile touched his face. "Only those with a pure heart, an unshakable will, and a true sense of justice can become my suck." His voice trailed off. The smile vanished. "How can your mind be so impure?" He fell silent for a few breaths. Then, suddenly furious at his disappointment, he jabbed the staff at Lion. "At your age, with your magical attainment, your mind is as murky as Caesar before the Queen of Egypt." Lion's cheeks flushed. This was an accident. Last night with Diana had been more than a fleeting moment. He still tasted the memory. He hadn't expected such a small, impure thought to be detected by Shazam. Given his current willpower and state of mind, he should have been a clear pick for succession. Even though he hadn't come to be Shazam's heir for himself, being condemned for impurity stung. There are no accidents in the world of magic, Shazam said with a heavy sigh. I regret to say your mind is impure. You cannot be my successor. He spoke as if Lion had thrown away great potential. 5,000 years ago, I accepted another successor. He gained power without struggle, his mind corrupted, and he went mad. The disaster he caused still stains my memory. Shazam waved dismissively. Go. I will not entrust my power to someone with a tainted heart. He turned and shuffled back toward his throne, his shoulders a little more stooped, clearly remorseful at having to refuse. Lion watched him, puzzled. The speech about children and purity made him think of a children's adventure story where only kids are pure enough to be chosen. He forced a smile and clarified, Wizard, actually, I didn't come to be your heir. I came to bring one. Shazam stopped and frowned, turning his head. You don't want to be my heir? Why? Chapter 346. It's okay if the chapter is a little yellow, as long as it's not black. A moment ago, he had declared Lion's intentions impure and said Lion couldn't be an heir. Now that Lion himself refused the role, Shazam was once more unsettled. Lion spread his hands. Because there's a better choice. Old Wizard, Lion continued, as long as someone is pure of heart, has a sense of justice, holds faith, and is strong enough, they can inherit, right? Shazam frowned in puzzlement. That's right. Do you actually have a candidate? An unworthy person can't fool my eyes. Lion smiled slightly. Do you think these two are suitable? With that thought, he brought Diana and Kara out from his inner world. Shazam stiffened as he felt the rip of spatial magic and guessed Lion had used some kind of teleportation. He couldn't help but look at Lion with a new regret. Such mastery of magic, and yet not becoming the next Shazam, felt like a real loss. Then he turned to the two women who had suddenly appeared. One glance made his brow deepen. Demigods? Another. A faint light rose in Shazam's eyes, and he understood Kara's nature, and an alien. Lion's world traversal ability connected directly to the world consciousness when he crossed. In the terms of this DC universe, he carried an identity, part human, part Kryptonian. In Shazam's judgment, that could count as being of Earth. But Shazam shook his head. No, my power will only pass to Earthlings. Shazam's power, after all, came from the ancient gods. He had been entrusted with it to protect Earth and its people. How could he hand that power to demigods or aliens? Lion sighed. Wizard, if you don't pass on your power soon, you might not get another chance. No chance? Do you mean to force my hand? Shazam snapped, eyebrows rising. Of course not. Lion sounded a little exasperated. I've told you twice, the world is going to reset. Reset. The concept made Shazam's face fall. Even the strongest gods he had known seemed incapable of resetting the world. Lion explained briefly. As he listened, Shazam's expression darkened. Darkseid. It's actually Darkseid. His voice dropped. Will my successor appear on that future battlefield, or will I still not have found one by then? Try as one might, it would be hard to explain. For thousands of years, Shazam had dozed on his stone throne. Then, sudden as always, a mage burst in, declaring the world would be reset. That might not have concerned him. He had slept through the end of Earth before, but the thought that all his centuries of guard and waiting could be wiped away like an ant under an elephant's foot made something inside him tremble with anger. Lion thought of the new generation Shazam in the movies, a figure who came long after Steppenwolf's defeat. In this world's future, without the Justice League's Big Three, Earth might be flattened. Lion shook his head. No, you probably won't have found a successor even after all Earthlings are dead. Shazam felt as though someone had driven a knife into his chest. He turned away, sat sullenly on the stone chair, and only a few seconds later stood up again, pacing the platform above the steps. His breath came heavier as emotions swirled. Lion watched in silence. Diana and Kara still hadn't fully absorbed the situation. After looking around for a moment, Diana quietly asked, Who is that old wizard? Wizard Shazam, Lion said. He holds the divine power your father passed down, Diana, but to you, he isn't an old wizard in the usual sense. Lion's casual reply earned him Diana's amused eye roll. Are you proposing or Diana inherit his power? Why? Kara asked before anyone else could. Shazam's power comes from the gods, Lion said. If it were passed to you, it would give you magic, something a Kryptonian lacks. If it went to Diana, and nothing went wrong, she'd complete her divine transformation and become a true god. He looked at them both. In Wonder Woman number 798, Diana became a literal goddess after acquiring Shazam's divine power. Once a god, her potential was fully unleashed. Even Hera could not stand against her. Both women felt their hearts skip a beat at the possibility, but each shook her head almost at once. I don't need divine power, Kara said. I get stronger in sunlight. I don't rely on magic. Diana added more softly. I've never wanted to be a god. Amazon blood runs in me. I'm an Amazon. My duty is to protect people and the world. Kara blinked. But Diana, your father's divine power is part of what Shazam holds. If it can make up for a Kryptonian's weaknesses, then Kara should have it. Lion shrugged. You're both right, but whether any of this happens depends on Wizard Shazam. Above the steps, Shazam watched them. Diana and Kara's refusals had been sincere. He could tell at a glance. Their words came from the heart. He fell silent for a long beat. When he looked again at Lion, disappointment colored his gaze. Their hearts are 100 times purer than yours, kid. Lion raised an eyebrow. Wizard, I can't accept that. My pursuit of power is pure as well. If you call that impure, your standards must be off. My standards? Shazam sounded surprised. He measured Lion with another look. A firm heart, iron will, unmatched physique. Perhaps your accomplishments will not fall short of mine in time. Lion neither confirmed nor denied. He held back the power within him. Otherwise, Shazam might not have been able to offer such a measured, if reluctant, compliment. Old Wizard, Lion said, it's time to decide. The reset will be complete in a few minutes. If you hesitate any longer, you'll take your power into the next cycle, Lion pressed. Now Shazam wavered. He paced, frowning in distress. You can escape the reset? He asked. I have a way, Lion nodded. Shazam nodded in return, walked the platform a few more times, and then sighed. He descended the steps and his face became solemn. Tell me your name, mage. Lion slapped his forehead as if embarrassed. Lion Stark, and these two are Diana and Kara. He had already introduced himself. Who introduces themselves twice in under 5 minutes? If this were any other place, Lion thought, Shazam might be sent away for a timeout. But the old wizard bristled with a sudden, decisive energy. Good, Lion, from this day, you are the next Shazam. He extended the staff of the gods. Now take hold of the staff and shout, Shazam! Lion stared, defeated for a moment. Didn't you say my heart wasn't pure? Not pure, but acceptable, Shazam said bluntly. You're not dark, just a bit lustful. Lion cut him off, half laughing. All right, enough analysis. I told you I don't want to become Shazam. Shazam didn't relent. I will not pass my power to races other than Earthlings. Before Lion could reply, Shazam added, almost curtly, That's my principle. Your principles are none of my concern. Lion blinked and understood. He took hold of the staff. Shazam's hand closed on it as well, and together they spoke the name. Shazam! Chapter 347. Thumbs up to Zhang Sha! Shazam! Leon's shout and the crack of thunder came at the same instant. A bolt of lightning tore open space and struck him. Old Wizard Shazam cleared his mind and chose the man before him as his successor. The divine power of 6 gods flowed into Leon. When the lightning died away, Leon's black battlesuit had become a bright red, and a long white cape with a hood fell over his shoulders. Isn't this color a little overboard? Tony wouldn't even paint his armor all red, Leon muttered, examining the new suit. I must look like one of those multi-colored tokusatsu heroes shouting about love and justice. As he complained, he noticed something odd. His talent for griping felt stronger. Solomon's wisdom? Shazam ignored the commentary and finished the ritual, raising the staff of the gods high and intoning in a booming voice. From now on, you shall bear my name and possess my power. You are Shazam. Receive the power of Zeus, the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the courage of Achilles, the speed of Mercury, all gather upon you. When the ritual ended, the old wizard handed him the staff. Remember, you must use your inner self to guide your infinite power. Leon nodded and took the staff, though his thoughts were less reverent. Infinite power might be true in the comic book multiverse, where Shazam, Black Adam, and the Martian Manhunter can be comparable to Superman and sometimes perform absurdly enormous feats. In that continuity, Shazam has an upper limit that sometimes approaches cosmic scale. In the movies, though, the DCEU Shazam ceiling is much lower, more like planetary-level showings. After feeling the divine power inside him, Leon reached the same practical conclusion. If his will were absolutely iron, he could push the divine power to planet-shattering effects, but his own baseline strength already approached star-shattering levels. In short, Shazam's gift was powerful and useful, especially because it could be shared. 7 stone chairs were set in the eternal rock. Once there had been 7 wizards, Shazam and his brothers and sisters, so the power could be split into 6 portions. One of those portions had become Black Adam's. 5,000 years ago, Black Adam had released the 7 deadly sins and slaughtered humanity before Shazam resealed him. That was why the wizard was careful to choose successors with pure hearts. Leon thought through all of this as the old man suddenly snapped. "What are you spacing out for, kid?" He pointed to the stone chairs behind him. "See those thrones? Those belong to me and my brothers and sisters. My power must be passed on, and theirs must be inherited. What are you waiting for? Start the inheritance." Shazam's voice was loud and rough, like someone who'd been alone for millennia and had forgotten how to modulate it. Leon raised an eyebrow. Only Diana and Kara here could plausibly receive the divine power. The old wizard had declared earlier he wouldn't give power to non-humans, yet now he was practically pushing Leon to hand it out. Leon suspected Solomon's wisdom had softened the wizard's principles. "If you insist, I'll start sharing it now." Leon shrugged, planted the staff in the stone, and gestured to Diana and Kara. "Put your hands on the staff and shout Shazam, this old man's name." The name Shazam is the switch. Call it, and you transform. Call it again, and you revert. If you shouted it at the wrong moment and reverted at a critical second, you could lose everything. That trick had allowed Batman to defeat Shazam before. Diana and Kara exchanged looks, then stepped forward without hesitation. Each reached for the staff. "Wait," old wizard Shazam blurted, then immediately turned his back and mumbled, "I know nothing, and I see nothing." It was a clumsy attempt at covering his eyes, so obvious it was almost honest. Leon inwardly decided the wizard's skin was thick from centuries of solitude. In that department, Shazam rivaled any ancient being. He turned back to the others, deadpan. "Don't mind him. Just shout." Diana and Kara nodded. Together they cried, "Shazam!" 2 bolts of lightning split the darkness. Silver-white electricity lanced out and enveloped them. Both women received a portion of Shazam's power. Kara's Kryptonian battlesuit flashed and turned a deep sapphire blue, a glowing lightning sigil appearing on her chest. She pressed at her arm, feeling only a subtle change. Kryptonians don't take to magic the same way they do to physical force, and Kara had never been touched by magic before. For her, the inheritance was mostly an unfamiliar energy inside. Diana's change was far more dramatic. When the lightning faded, she floated into the air, eyes closing. Tiny electric currents danced and flickered across her skin, multiplying and growing brighter. Chapter 348. The future ocean will have room for my old ship. The moment the lightning struck Diana, a golden radiance suddenly bloomed from her body. The light fell like sunlight, breaking through clouds, cleaving the bolts of lightning and lighting up the entire cave. "Ah! Ah!" Diana gave a roar, shattering some internal barrier. The brilliant gold grew brighter, concentrating until her whole form became a sacred, dazzling hue, like an angel descending. As the light enveloped her, the roar changed to a clear, long keening, like a bird shaking dust from its wings, breaking chains and soaring free. Diana floated in the air, crying out. The sound slowly faded, and the golden glow receded, revealing the true form of the descended angel. Her red and blue Amazon armor had shifted into a dark golden battlesuit. From headpiece to knee guards, everything shimmered deep, burnished gold, as if mysterious power flowed within it. Diana swung an arm, and her cape snapped loudly. She drifted back down and smiled at Leon. Where the cave had been dim before, it now brightened several shades. Old wizard Shazam, who had somehow turned to watch, spoke gravely. "She's become a true god." Leon stared. That style of battlesuit looked oddly familiar. "Diana, have you become a Saint Seiya?" He couldn't resist teasing. "Saint Seiya?" Diana blinked. "It sounds like a high compliment for a warrior. Are you praising me?" Leon stroked his chin. "Of course it's a compliment. Not only do you look like one, but your power must have gone up a lot, right?" Diana nodded. "A portion of Zeus's power merged with me. I've gone from demigod to a full god." Becoming a god didn't thrill Diana more than her original duty. Whether demigod or god, she was still Diana, sworn to protect humanity and the world. Shazam, however, frowned and fixed her with a hard look. "So you are Zeus's daughter," he muttered through clenched teeth. He had taken divine powers from many deities, sealing them away so gods could no longer enter the human world. He hadn't expected any of that power to return to Zeus's daughter. If it had gone to an ordinary demigod, it might not matter, but Zeus's daughter had untold potential. Shazam warned solemnly, "You may have become a true god, but these powers all originated with this kid. If he withdraws the divine power, even if you don't revert to being a demigod, you will be weakened. Don't do anything that harms humanity." Diana bristled. She understood the warning, but having her resolve questioned stung. "I am from the Amazons. My duty is to protect humanity. Wizard, keep your doubts, but you will see you are wrong." Shazam's eyes flickered. He could sense lies. Diana's oath was honest and unvarnished. "The Amazons," he murmured. "No wonder." Leon, quick to support her, put a hand on the old wizard's shoulder. "Don't worry about Diana. Even if humanity betrays the Earth, Diana will not betray humanity. I guarantee it." He glanced at Kara. "Diana's become a true god. How do you feel, Kara?" Kara's envious look slid off Diana. She shook her head with a wry smile. "I think that outfit is ugly. Can I change back just by shouting Shazam?" Boom. Before she finished, lightning crackled, and she shifted back into her Kryptonian battlesuit. "Looks like I'm not the only one who thinks it's strange," Leon joked. "But I meant, how has your strength changed?" Kara tried again. "Shazam," she whispered, and transformed. She flexed, then said, "My strength doesn't seem hugely different, but I feel more energetic. Even in a place without the sun, I hardly lose power." "So it's endurance?" Leon said, intrigued. "That might be perfect for you." Kara looked at him. Leon didn't explain. Instead, he produced a small, palm-sized box. He tapped its side, and the nanomaterial box sank like quicksand, revealing a sliver of green kryptonite in his hand. Kara's indifferent expression flickered with discomfort the instant it was exposed. "Green kryptonite," she said quietly. "It weakens Kryptonians and can kill them." Leon took her hand and placed the kryptonite in her fair palm. "My genes have been altered many times. I'm unaffected by kryptonite. With the divine power you've got now, you might resist its radiation better." Kryptonite still hit Kara hard. Cold sweat beaded on her brow, and her face twisted in pain. But the effect seemed limited. Her arm trembled, but she didn't drop the rock, and her spine stayed straight. "I feel my stamina and strength draining," she said through gritted teeth. "How fast?" "I'll probably be back to normal in a few hours." "Then try using your divine power." Kara hesitated, then summoned it. The weakness eased immediately. The stamina loss slowed markedly. Divine power really works. Her eyes lit up, and, to Leon's astonishment, she used her biofield and floated up, Kara holding kryptonite aloft and hovering. That level of kryptonite resistance was already comparable to Earth's Superman, who had spent decades bathed in the sun. Leon thought, this Shazam power was excellent. It let Diana realize herself and boosted Kara's resistances. As long as the gods didn't reclaim it, the power could be used indefinitely, even if they returned to another universe. Perfect, almost. He thought suddenly about sharing the Shazam power with Tony and letting Solomon's wisdom bless him, though Solomon's gift might be unconventional. Leon tucked the Staff of the Gods away and was about to thank Shazam when the space-time around the entire Earth began to fracture. From the atmosphere to the land and down into the core, countless tiny, rhomboid spatial fragments broke away and vanished into pitch-black voids, as if an invisible grinder were tearing apart the fabric of the world. The four inside the Eternal Rock looked up in unison. The world restart is ending. Leon's pupils narrowed. He waved and pulled Diana and Kara into his inner world. See you after the restart, old wizard. I'll help you find a proper successor then. I'm leaving. He planned to see the future after the restart. Take Kara to meet her cousin Superman and perhaps collect a sample of Superman's blood. Bring Diana to the refreshed Paradise Island so the Amazons could be reassured, and finally return Barry's mother to him. He prepared to activate his crossing ability. Old Wizard Shazam suddenly panicked, lunged at him, and clung on. "Don't run!" he cried, wrapping his arms around Leon's waist. "What are you doing?" Leon widened his eyes. "Aren't you supposed to turn to dust after passing on the power and go enjoy the next realm?" The old man puffed his beard and clung tighter, glaring up at Leon. The ocean of the New World will have room for this old ship. I'm afraid you'll just run off. I gave you divine power, hoping you'd deal with Darkseid in the future. You want to supervise me? Leon's mouth twitched. Wait, I'm going to fight Darkseid? Shazam's duty is to protect humanity. If you don't fight, who will? Darkseid doesn't need fighting. Flash can redo things a few times and fix it. Get down. What if Flash dies? How could Flash die? Fine, I'll take you. Stop rubbing your beard oil on my waist. Hurry up, kid, space is already starting to shatter. As the eternal rock was engulfed by the spatial torrent, Leon and the old wizard vanished from the DCEU world. Chapter 349, Escape Restart. In the boundless world, Paradise Island, torn free from the continental shelf, floated on a blood-red ocean. The Amazon warriors stood along the cliff and stared out at that vast, uncanny sea. This isn't the ocean Paradise Island used to have. Could the world's reboot already be over? Someone muttered. Queen Hippolyta looked up. Dozens of suns hung in the sky. She looked down. 1,000-meter waves rose and fell every second. The heat she ought to have felt from so many suns was absent. The shore should have crumbled from those monstrous swells, yet the cliff held. She felt as if she had been hurled back to the first breath of creation, before even gods had been born. A booming voice rolled down from on high, capable of splitting the air. This is my world. You will remain here for now. When the outside stabilizes, I will send you out. Hippolyta's ears throbbed. Are you, Liang? She peered left and right. The ocean stretched without end. No land break interrupted it. Besides Paradise Island beneath them, only two enormous glowing white pillars jutted into the clouds in the distance. Where could the voice be coming from? It is I, the voice answered. The giant you see in the ocean below are my black light clones. While you're here, do not leap into that sea. Every drop of water in it weighs more than 1,000 tons. He added, Diana will come for you soon. I am going to cultivate. As if on cue, the two distant white pillars shifted. They moved in sequence, stirring up titanic waves whose shadows could blot out Paradise Island. Hippolyta's eyes widened. Those pillars weren't stone, they were legs. Legs of a giant. She followed the pillars upward through the churning white clouds until they turned into a mass of indistinct silhouettes extending beyond sight. Even with her vision strained, she could not see what lay above. He must be at least 1,000,000 meters tall, an Amazon whispered, hand over her mouth. Were those 100-armed giants in the myths this tall? Can Diana even deal with someone like that? Another fretted. You're missing it. He said those are clones, not his main body, a third argued. Maybe he's the reincarnation of Atlas himself. The warriors talked in excited bursts while Hippolyta stood silent, staring at the distant, impossible legs and then down at the blood-red ocean. The sea was another black light clone. Just who, exactly, was Liang? Over the inner world, Liang landed on a plane with two women and Tony Stark. But this Liang was not the original. He was a black light clone that had taken the form of a Siberian husky, standing about 1 meter tall and somehow on 2 legs. You're saying you're Liang's black light clone? Tony blinked at the upright husky with the same bewildered curiosity he applied to every oddity. Why so formal? The husky replied with a very human roll of the eyes. I am Liang. It's just that a portion of my consciousness has separated. Diana and Kara, curious, reached out and petted the clone's head. Tony crouched to inspect the creature more closely. So it's like you growing an extra hand when you control multiple parts at once? Roughly, the clone said. Enduring the attention, Liang pointed toward the distance. You can stay on this plane for now. I'll let you out once I've assessed the situation. Tony, unable to resist, lunged and tried to hug the husky. The clone suddenly liquefied into a mass of black motes, then slithered into the earth like spilled ink. A voice echoed from underfoot. I'm going to cultivate. Do not disturb my black light clone's cultivation. Holy moly, Tony gaped. Your clone can transform? Teach me? Liang! Imagine what I could do. You can't learn it. This ability was bestowed by a world consciousness. Don't daydream, came the underground reprimand. Tony's bubble of fantasy popped. He thumped the sand in frustration while Diana and Kara, having moved 12 meters back, regarded him with amused contempt. Jarvis's dry voice reported, Sir, I am unable to connect to the network to order a grave for you today. Would you like me to control the armor to dig a custom one? Shut up, Jarvis. Tony smacked a hand to his forehead. Liang resurfaced, this time with Shazam clinging to his leg and prepared to traverse. They first appeared at the doorstep of Superman's little world, the Superman Louise world. An old wizard who had been clinging to Liang earlier hopped down, dusted his robes, and inspected the surroundings with keen interest rather than embarrassment. Is the world reboot already this fast? He hissed. I don't sense another me. Because this is a different world, Liang replied. We'll use it as a springboard to return to the time point after the reboot. Inside the quiet farmhouse at Kent, everything was still. Wolf Superman, who had enjoyed an extended period of peace, slept deeply and didn't wake at the apparition of two strange visitors at his door. The old wizard, eager, grabbed Liang's waist again. Liang stifled the urge to flick him off and engaged his traversal ability. During the transit, the perspective of chaos unfolded. The DCEU universe bubble tumbled and resorted its timeline. A few seconds later, the world stabilized. Liang checked the coordinates and frowned. I can only traverse to a much later time point. Did Barry's reboot have a larger effect than we thought? The two figures vanished from the Kent farm. Inside the cozy cottage, Wolf Superman rolled over in his sleep and drew Louise closer, oblivious to the ripples their world had just felt. DCEU Universe. Northeast Africa, north of Egypt, the Kandak Kingdom. In the desert, a group of people pushed through a howling sandstorm. Thick yellow grit coated their bodies. Their tired feet left prints of varying depths that the wind erased after a few steps. 7 or 8 of them moved in silence, eyes fixed on the ground, exhaustion written across every face. Their leader wore a long black cloak, its hem shredded. A pitch-black cowl covered half his face. 2 sharp, decorative ears rose from its brow. Beneath, a chin rimmed with salt and pepper stubble showed. He lifted his right foot out of the sand and suddenly stopped. He'd heard something. Conceal, he barked. The team were all elites. The order snapped them alert. Their fatigue vanished, and their eyes sharpened. At the command, everyone dropped to the sand. One of them peeled back a linen cloak to reveal a body composed entirely of machinery. With a series of precise mechanical clicks, his arm reconfigured into a cannon barrel. The barrel expelled a cloud of gas that whipped up a blast of sand, burying the team in a choking swath of yellow. In seconds, they disappeared into the desert's folds. Less than half a minute later, a swarm of locust-like creatures flew overhead. They had humanoid torsos, 4 dragonfly wings on their backs, and firearms in their hands. Crimson eyes swept the dunes below. They were methodical, slow. After finding no sign of life, they moved on. When the creatures were a distant blur, several heads rose slowly out of the dust. The leader looked after the departing enemies and said in a steady voice, "Safe." Only then did the others stand, shoulder joints creaking as sand sifted off them. The mechanical man stared up at the sky, hatred in his voice. How much farther to the ruins? Soon, the leader replied in a low, hoarse voice. The mechanical man shook his head and limped toward him, metal joints whining. We have to hurry, Batman. The world is on the brink of destruction. We don't have time. They were unmistakably Batman and Cyborg. Both of Justice League's main figures were in a sorry state. Cyborg's body, fused to him by a mother box, sparked and smoked. Panels showed burn marks. Batman's suit was stripped of its usual array of gadgets, reduced to a battered chest plate and what remained of its armor. No time, huh? Mara snapped, raw at the edge of breaking. Then why run to some distant place? That person killed Arthur, she spat. He enslaved Superman. He wiped out most life on Earth and turned the rest into his puppets. Running isn't going to fix that. How long are we supposed to run? Batman's voice rose a fraction. Mara, we came here to save people. Then softer, colder. Flash is dead. We have no retreat. We must find help. Mara, he continued, measured. Flash mentioned Lyon Stark. He never showed, so we go where Diana said, Black Adam. This was Diana's last message before she died. Don't let grief blind you. Mara, wife of Arthur Curry, stared at him, eyes blazing. Arthur was dead, killed by Darkseid. Mara had chosen vengeance. Emotional, she said, incredulous. Bruce Wayne, do you even know what that word means? You've never loved anyone. Batman's eyes were pale blue behind the cowl. Keep moving. His tone left no room for argument, and they pressed on deeper into the desert. Heh! Ha! Heh! Ha! A low, sharp laugh sliced through the wind, an awful sound like fingernails on glass or a duck with a crowbar in its throat. Everyone but Batman turned. There, slouched in the sand, the Joker was laughing. His face was white painted and smeared, his lips a crude, crimson smile that could have been paint or rot. He wore a plain white shirt beneath a commando vest and bent over with laughter. "Little mermaid," he croaked between cackles. His voice flitted between an impossibly high falsetto and a deep, amused baritone. "No, no, Bruce Wayne has loved, oh, he's loved many, more than you can imagine." He straightened slowly, pressing a wrist to his forehead as if savoring his own joke, shoulders shaking. "For example, a father," he let the words hang, "and a mother. Oh, perhaps an adopted son, everyone called him." He trailed off into a smile. Batman stopped. He turned slowly, gaze fixed on the Joker. "You'd be wise to think carefully before you continue," he said, voice as low and controlled as ever. The Joker's grin widened. "An adopted son, Robin, right? How much you loved them. All dead now. So what's left, Batman? You're numb." He cocked his head to Mara. "When Louise died in your arms, weren't her eyes so beautiful? A little shooting star?" He made as if to sob, eyelids fluttering with mock anguish. The name, Louise, hung in the air like an accusation. Batman closed the distance between them without haste. He looked down at the Joker. "You're right," he said quietly. "I've been numb for a long time. My heart's been buried. But if you cross my line again—" The Joker clapped both hands to his cheeks and feigned hurt, eyebrows raised. "Oh, are you gonna kill me? The great Batman, gonna kill the Joker?" His laugh turned bitter. "Don't be ridiculous, Bruce. You won't kill me." He stepped closer, conspiratorial. "I am your friend, your savior, your trump card to save the world. You can't bear to kill me, just like you couldn't bear to sacrifice yourself for Louise, and the world burned because you hesitated. Poor Flash," he went on, suddenly earnest. "He kept restarting the world for you, over and over. All that sacrifice for nothing, because you're a coward. My poor unloved Flash, what was it for?" Batman's jaw tightened. When he spoke, the words were low and hard as gravel. "That's a very interesting story. Except you're wrong. It wasn't Louise who died in my arms." The Joker's face fell into a pleased leer. "Oh, it was Harley Quinn," Batman said. "She was in my arms, covered in blood. With her last breath, she begged me to take my time when I killed you." He looked down at the Joker, the words like an oath. "Don't doubt it. I will kill you one day, and when that day comes, I will do exactly as Harley asked, let you die slowly, in torment." After that, Batman turned and walked away into the desert. The Joker's body trembled as if struck. He froze like a statue, eyes locked on Batman's retreating form. The others watched the exchange, then fell into step behind their leader. Even Mara, who had been the most vocal, kept her silence this time. Chapter 351. Jong is crazy. Everyone is crazy. The sky blackened as evening fell over a desolate mountain far from Kandak's capital. Inside the mountain sat an ancient ruin. The carved stone walls were the only testament to a past that had outlived time. Batman and his small band had finally reached their destination and were probing deeper into the labyrinth. Mara, who had lived longer than any of them, could read the old script along the walls. After all, Atlantis's desert prison had once been in the Sahara not far from here. She knew the vanished civilizations of this land. "Wizard Shah, what?" "He gave magic to humans, but their minds could not bear such power." Mara read, voice rough with the dust and age of the letters. "The ultimate power of corruption, suppressed, banished, and sealed here. And then walk down this path and you'll find a crown." "What crown?" she added, squinting. "Looks like we came to the wrong place." "This is it." Batman strode further into the passage. "The coordinates in Diana's notes point here." Diana's been studying humans and Earth since the 1920s. She wouldn't get the geography wrong, Mara said, but Batman's silhouette already melted into the dark. Mara turned to the others. "This world is already finished," she said. "Even if Black Adam is here, he can only stand and watch it end. We should go straight to Metropolis and take out those monsters. Killing one more counts as revenge." An old man in a golden helmet and armor, Dr. Fate, shook his head. "Sometimes we must hold on to hope. Hope is the only thing that keeps us moving." He went after Batman. A Chinese-looking man at his side, Kai Ruyan, according to Mara's private memory, patted her shoulder. "Dr. Fate's right. There has to be some hope. That's how I approach uncertain material research, at least. Kyrian is right. A figure in cold oath blood-streaked armor passed them. Half his plating was a dusty orange, the other half a deep colorless black. His mask revealed only a single, murderous left eye. Everybody's gone mad in times like these, Little Mermaid. Joker strolled in next. Only lunatics keep running around with Batman. He's crazier than any of us. Cyborg's electronic eyes swept the chamber. He stored every inscription into his database and spoke flatly. Dr. Fate, Adam, Deathstroke, Joker, that's 4 votes for Hope. We should find Black Adam first. Mara watched them as they moved through the ruins. Their hatred ran deeper than hers, an abyss that fed every decision they made. Yet these same people, muddy with rage, spoke of hope, of risk, of method and plan. She was the one who wanted to run to Metropolis and cut down Superman and Darkseid when she had the chance. I feel like the only sane one here, she thought, and let the sneer show before following the others down the corridor. They were 7, Batman, Cyborg, Joker, Mara, Deathstroke, Dr. Fate, and Adam, Earth's last resistance. Outside the ruin, the world had emptied into ghost cities, Kandak's capital, Greece, Jerusalem, London, Metropolis, Gotham, silent under the cold torrent of metal and dread. Occasionally a figure shuffled past, eyes glassy and vacant, moving like a machine following old orders. More common were parademons clinging to the ruin's edges, once human, now spread with iridescent wings and serrated mouthparts, their eyes blood-red and fixed on Metropolis. At the highest spire of Metropolis, Superman sat upon a throne and watched the ruined planet with eyes of red milk. "Where are you, Batman?" His voice might have echoed in the minds of all. Is Dr. Fate interfering again? The cavern farthest in was a circular chamber, empty save for 2 massive rocks. Between them hovered a crown, suspended, humming with a heavy, wrong power. Mara picked it up and read the runes carved into its circlet aloud, sounding out syllables that felt like knives. When she finished, she broke down. "Life is the only path to death," she spat. "This thing, it's a conduit, a tool to summon hellish demons to Earth. Ancient monarchs who wanted eternal rule made it. It will call a demon lord, something like Shabak, to destroy the world." "Is this what Wonder Woman left behind?" someone murmured. Mara's voice cut through, incredulous. "You mean we summon a demon to fight those dog things from Apocalypse, and then the world gets torn apart anyway? It could work?" she added, more to herself than anyone else. Earth was already on the edge. Calling demons to fight Darkseid's legions sounded insane. But then, what hadn't sounded insane in the last days? Batman had been listening without betraying anything. Mara's eyes dropped to him. Was this his plan? He was already the most dangerous man she'd met. The idea that he would drag Earth into hell with Darkseid made bile rise in her throat. Joker had been right. They were all mad. Batman took the crown with careful hands, studied the ancient script, then slid it into his satchel. "It says life is the path to death," he said. "That implies using the crown with one's life will summon whatever the text describes." He paused, and Mara felt the cold certainty in his voice. "I will use it at the appropriate time," he added. "For now, we keep searching. I trust Diana's judgment." Around them, the others accepted that as if it were a plan carved in stone. They dispersed through the ruined halls, continuing to comb the walls for more clues. Mara stood a beat longer in the dim, ancient light. If she could hear their thoughts, if she could read the molten hatred and the quiet, resolute calculation inside each head, she would say what she already knew in her bones. They were all insane. But for now, she only watched them go, the crown's terrible promise hidden in Batman's bag, and realized with a cold and private fury that she might be the only person left who truly feared what the word appropriate might mean. Chapter 352. He went up, he was gone, it was over. After some searching, Batman crouched between 2 massive rocks and found a clue. "It's here. This looks like an altar or a magic circle. Mara, come look." Mara stepped forward, crouched beside him, brushed the dust from the floor, and slowly read the words carved into the tiles. "The strongest human, king of the gods, name from 6 wizards. Shazam!" Shazam? No one had heard the name before. Even Mara, who had lived the longest, felt only a faint sense of déjà vu. The moment she finished speaking, the ruins flashed with electric light, and everyone's faces were washed in a cold, white glow. When the thunderous roar died away and the light faded, all seven had already taken up hidden positions and adopted defensive stances. No orders were needed. The world's most elite warriors knew how to react. After a few held breaths, Batman, who had been waiting for any anomaly, swept his gaze across the chamber. Between the two giant rocks, above the magic circle, a burly figure in black robes knelt with his back to them, like some lone, dormant champion. "You are Black Adam?" Batman rose slowly. It was obvious the words Mara had read had been the incantation to free Black Adam. But what kind of ruin was this? Above the two stones hung an evil crown rumored to summon demons. Below lay a mighty man sealed by ancient wizards. It felt like a sorcerer's junkyard. The figure did not answer. He remained kneeling, as if sealed for centuries and not yet fully awake. Batman could hear the change in his breathing, and as a master tactician, read the enemy's condition from the smallest details. He signaled the others. The atmosphere tensed like a string pulled taut, ready to snap. Cyborg's arm became an energy cannon. Deathstroke drew his twin blades. Adam readied himself to change size. Dr. Fate gathered his spells. Under that vigilance, the black-robed figure slowly rose and turned. The hood hid most of his face, but as he scanned them, he was plainly sizing up whether foes remained in this world. Waking gods measured threats first. No one spoke, not wanting to be mistaken for the ancient enemies who had once sealed him. "Who are you?" After a long silence, the figure finally spoke. Black Adam's voice, each word slow from disuse. "We need you, Black Adam," Batman said in a low voice. "Need me?" "Earth is in danger. We need you to help defeat that person," Mara interjected. Her voice caught Black Adam's attention. "That voice, you woke me," he said, fixing his gaze on her. His hood slipped back, revealing a chiseled bald head and an aura that radiated ferocity. "Yes, I woke you. It's been thousands of years, Black Adam. The world is near doomsday. Even Kandak, the city that revered you as a hero, has been overrun by parademons." "Parademons?" Black Adam frowned. The name stirred memories. Without warning, he shot into the sky, tearing through the cave ceiling in a burst of brutal force. The ruins trembled. Batman's expression tightened, and he gave chase. "Damn it! Stop him! Too much commotion will draw that person's attention." But they were too late. Batman had been preparing ways to placate and recruit Black Adam, ideas like having Joker appeal to his sense of belonging to Earth, however faint. Who could have predicted a single remark from Mara would derail every plan? The instant Black Adam burst from the cave, the noise alerted nearby parademons. He cut them down with a single lightning bolt, but from farther off, thousands more were streaming in. As they poured across the night sky, Batman looked up and saw it was covered in a black humming cloud. Millions of parademons, an overwhelming swarm. "Get out of here, now! Black Adam, come with us!" Wings beat like a hive of hornets. Only then did Black Adam, who had been aloof since waking, comprehend the scale. This armada wasn't a handful of foes. This was the kind of force he had once slaughtered whole before being sealed. He finally understood what Mara meant by doomsday. He agreed to fall back and planned to retreat as Batman suggested. "Go!" Black Adam twisted and darted the other way. Batman and the others scrambled across the ground, but then a whistling tore through the cloud sea. A red-caped figure descended with a sonic boom and struck Black Adam midair, punching him down. Batman and the team watched in frozen shock as Black Adam fell like a sack of sand, crashing into the earth and carving a deep crater. "He's here," Batman murmured. No one moved. Adam's voice trembled. "Should we help or run? We'll assess first." Batman pulled a sliver of green kryptonite from his utility belt, his last piece. If used on the right target, it could be decisive. He wanted to see how much Black Adam could still do. Superman, in his dark blue suit, slammed into the crater like a meteor. Lightning flared wildly, and Superman was hurled backward, struck by a burst of electricity. Black Adam also rose, bloodied but still bristling with electrical power. Batman's eyes flickered with hope. "I'll hand the kryptonite to Black Adam," he decided, and sprung from the rubble. But before he could move, Superman had recovered and surged forward at supersonic speed through the storm. Black Adam congealed lightning and struck with equal fury. Batman took a step, but Superman, slicing through gaps in the lightning, closed the distance. He drew back and drove a fist into Black Adam's face, sending him rocketing toward the ground. Superman followed, pounding him back into the sky with a barrage of blows. Each strike delivered massive force. After more than 10 punches, Black Adam's face was a mask of blood. Then Superman grabbed him by the throat. His eyes flared crimson and heat vision burned out. Black Adam screamed as twin beams pierced him. The team watched, stunned by Superman's relentlessness, while Batman rolled back to safety. "Retreat. Find another opening. Cyborg, Dr. Fate, get us an escape route now," Batman barked. He knew too well how dangerous a Superman who had lost his restraint could be, especially unleashed at full power. Black Adam had just been freed and was already exhausted. He was finished. They needed to consider other options, perhaps even summoning demons from the underworld. Chapter 353, Batman's Escape Route. The moment they saw Superman, everyone felt the urge to run. At Batman's shout to retreat, Cyborg sprang forward and led them into the ruins. They followed him in a tight pack. He fired his sonic cannon to blast open the cave mouth, then leveled it at the floor. In seconds, he had excavated a pit several meters deep and dropped down. As he landed, his right arm cannon shifted from sonic to laser mode. He began rapidly clearing a dark tunnel through the pit. Behind him, Dr. Fate pulled a roll of lead foil from the pack on his back. Though aged, the sorcerer's magic had only grown more precise. He spread his hands, the foil unfurled, and guided by an unseen force, sheets of earth and rock rose and swept into place. The lead and the hewn stone formed a crude shelter, a cramped stone house that sealed them inside the pit. Cyborg, having finished the escape tunnel, cut a square block from the floor beneath the shelter with his laser. He lifted the stone, jumped into the house, and shouted, "Quick, get out through the passage!" He didn't move again. The others hesitated. A few seconds passed before he put the stone back in place. When it was done, they exchanged looks and moved in unison, pressing themselves against one wall of the stone house, backs to the lead-lined surface. Dr. Fate worked his magic again, shaping another wall of earth and reserved lead foil in front of them. The new layer slid into place so precisely that only a 30-centimeter gap remained between it and the original wall. They squeezed into the thin interstice, flattened like pancakes against each other. Batman had probably never been this ridiculous. His face turned sideways, lips pinched in an annoyed pout, with the Joker's equally puckered mouth directly opposite. The two Gotham rivals stared at one another in comic proximity. If Kai Ruyan, the Atom from China, had seen them, he would have joked, "Congratulations on your marriage." But there was no levity among most of the group. Only Joker smirked. The rest were taut with fear. The dread in their chests spread like dead leaves. Since the fall of Earth, Superman's red cape, once a symbol of hope, had become their worst nightmare. Where it had once brought comfort, it now heralded doom. From Gotham to Africa, that crimson shadow had followed them relentlessly. Nightmares of that cape had stolen sleep. If Dr. Fate hadn't constantly cloaked their tracks and fooled Superman with illusion, the cape would have dug them out long ago. A thunderous blast shattered the short reprieve. The cavern entrance Cyborg had opened was blown wide. Someone was coming in. Heavy footsteps, 2 sets, echoed through the ruins, each step feeling like a footfall on their chests. Superman had arrived. They stilled. Even Joker stopped teasing. With a grunt, Superman tossed something onto the stone floor. "Take him back," he said coldly, "and make him submit to the great dark side." A wet, flapping rush of sound filled the ruins as black wings or some mechanical grappling device seized the fallen figure and hauled him away. Black Adam. They watched him go, helpless to stop it. Even if they bit their lips until they bled, silence was their only option while Superman searched. The footsteps resumed, drawing closer to the makeshift house. A wall shuddered and then burst inward. Through falling rubble, a massive hand grabbed the broken edge and slapped against it. "Lead the same Batman trick," someone muttered, surprise and irritation in the voice. Superman was a hand's breadth from them. The 7 of them held their breath. Every nerve in their bodies went taut. Even with Fate's magic masking their vital signs, their muscles flexed instinctively. It felt as if a volcano were about to erupt just beyond their bones. Dr. Fate gripped Kai Ruyan's thigh hard and signaled him to crouch. He dropped into a low, braced squat himself. Superman looked intent on dismantling the whole shelter. Fate gambled that illusion, and the 2 thin stone layers could fool his senses. provided no one got struck. Kai Ruyan clamped onto the thigh of the man next to him. It was Deathstroke. His armored suit was impossible to grasp, so Kai Ruyan nudged him with a shoulder, meeting silent agreement. The signal passed down the line until the last person folded into the cramped gap. Then Superman struck. His fist drove through the wall above their heads with a hammering crack. In the opening, they could see his familiar, stony face. There was nowhere to hide but to trust Dr. Fate. The illusion held. Though half the wall collapsed, Superman's eyes saw only a single solid stone face, no void, no figures. He searched with supersight and found no trace of Batman. Frustration creased his brow. He must be hiding somewhere even more dangerous, Superman thought. But the shelter had already been breached, and there was no sign of their quarry. He paced back to the floor panel Cyborg had cut, pried it up, looked down into the tunnel, and then leapt away along it. Relief flooded the trapped seven. Mara exhaled so hard her body went limp. He's gone. A weight slammed into the shelter. The entire dome of the ruins shuddered and then collapsed like stale tofu. Superman had returned, landing smack in the center of the stone house with a planet-shaking thud. "You're still here," he said, his voice colder than winter. With a rumble, he tore another wall aside. Debris and lead sheeting tumbled down. He was methodically dismantling the shelter. The seven felt their scalps prickle. Dr. Fate dug his fingers deeper into Kai Ruyan's thigh, harder this time, pulling them lower. They braced themselves as Superman tore chunks of the wall away. To their astonishment, what remained looked wrong to Superman, too. He frowned, sensing something off. His eyes flashed red. Heat began to glow in them as his gaze fixed on the half-ruined stone wall before him. The few people huddled in the wall's crevice felt a cold shadow fall across their hearts. Even Batman, whose mental resolve was iron, had sweat beading on his brow. He didn't fear death, but if they all died here, Earth would be finished. "Stay here," he ordered, voice low and urgent. "I'll go out and meet him." He broke his silence and reached for the crown in his bag, preparing to step into the area still flickering with Dr. Fate's illusion. Mara cried out suddenly. "Victor, what are you doing?" Victor, Cyborg, was already losing control. His implants hummed and chattered. A heavy machine gun folded out from his shoulder and began to swivel toward Superman. "Damn it, it's locked onto the wall. My self-defense protocols. Danger detected. Counterattack." He fought the systems like a man fighting his own arms. "Stop! Stop!" Cyborg had been rebuilt from the waist down with a mother box from Apocalypse. His body was more machine than flesh, with autonomous reactions of its own. Before he could wrestle control back, the gun had aimed and its barrels started to spin. "No, Victor," Batman breathed, already knowing how this would end. The gun barked. Bang, bang, bang. 14.7mm rounds spat from the barrel so fast they blurred into a continuous lash of metal. Mechanical clanks and the crack of powder filled the sealed ruin. The smell of gunfire thickened. Sparks skittered across Superman's skin like rain on a lake. Of course, the bullets did nothing. Even full-bore rounds only flattened against him and skittered away. Superman simply stood in the hail of metal, eyes finding the source. A smile split his face. Two fangs flashed coldly. "You're here." He didn't hesitate. A shockwave exploded outward when he moved, supersonic, tearing the air and sending bricks and rubble scattering. Dr. Fate's illusion shuddered and snapped. 7 faces, raised against a terrible enemy, were finally revealed. Superman ignored everyone but the shooter. Faster than the bullets, he was upon Cyborg, striking the cyborg torso clean in two. The upper half still spat firepower as it fell. Superman had already stepped behind Dr. Fate and twisted the sorcerer's neck. Fate went down hard. His neck was broken. He dangled as Superman shoved him aside. He wasn't dead. When the helmet of Fate held Nabu, death did not come so simply, but he would not get up again soon. Superman's gaze rolled over the others. For a heartbeat, they all had time to act. Deathstroke's blades rang as he drew them and vaulted from the crevice, swordplay precise and lethal. Adam enlarged himself in seconds, his head punching through the ceiling as he raised a massive foot to crush. Mara condensed water into spear-like arrows and loosed them. Every one of them feared Superman, and everyone had been waiting for this. Since Louise's death and since Superman had been turned by Darkseid, his humanity was gone. The hate in the room was absolute. But their resistance was puny. A violent red flared in Superman's eyes. Heat vision erupted. A crimson laser tore into the mountain, slicing through stone and the wreck of the ruins as if it weren't there. He swept that glare across them, preparing to cut everyone except Batman in half. "Stop!" Batman lunged, leaping forward with a rock-solid object clutched in his hand. The red glow in Superman's eyes snapped out. It wasn't charity. Batman dove at him wielding kryptonite. Superman parried Deathstroke's blade with one hand. With the other, he stripped two blades free and hurled them. One impaled Mara's chest, the other pinned Adam's foot to the rubble. He seized Deathstroke by the throat and then refocused his heat vision back toward Batman. Red light ignited again, fierce and inexorable. This was raw, utter invincibility. 7 heroes against one man, their magic, tech, and skill converging, and one blow could end them all. Batman met those burning eyes and already knew his odds. He still had one last card. The crown in his bag was a terrible bargaining chip. If he died while wearing it, he could go, down into hell itself, and return. He would traverse the deepest darkness and fight his way back for Earth. The heat rays closed in. Time seemed to slow. Faces ran through his mind. His parents in that alley, Robin, Alfred, Louise, everyone he'd failed. The Joker's taunt felt right. He'd burned too many bridges, and perhaps now he would pay the price. He charged into the 2 beams of heat, ready. A crooked, contemptuous smile took his mouth as death neared. He didn't know if he sneered at himself or at Superman. It did not matter. And then 2 figures suddenly slammed into him. Bang! Batman struck a man in red. Heat vision slammed into that man's chest and was stopped. This point in time is a few years after the Kryptonian came to Earth, right? How could Barry's universe restart take so long? What the? Heat vision straight away. And who's hitting me from behind? Another voice barked. The red-clad figure had an old man clinging to his waist. He squared his shoulders and took Superman's laser to the chest without giving an inch. "Kid Leon, why are you talking so much? Hurry up and toss me. The red rays bouncing off you are going to hit me," the old man complained. "You want to be cooked by heat vision? Don't grab my waist next time." The red man snapped as he flung the old man away. Then he froze, eyes wide. "No, why am I complaining? It must be this damned Solomon's wisdom. I have to change back, Shazam." Lightning forked out of nowhere, striking between them. Batman was thrown backward. Superman's heat vision wavered and broke. The red-clad man shimmered and transformed, the red suit giving way to a black battle armor with a dark cape snapping out behind him. Batman lay on the rubble, stunned in a new way. After the change, the man's posture, the calm steadiness of him, he seemed suddenly grounded, reliable. He could only see the man's back, but the certainty was enough. Across the ruined hall, Superman stared at the newcomer's chest as if stunned by recognition. "Kryptonian?" he rumbled. The man turned, voice deep with the same shock. "Superman?" Leon sized up the man in front of him. He looked about 80% like Henry Cavill, the actor who played Superman. Even in the dim cave light, Superman's presence couldn't be hidden. That chiseled face, a body carved like an ancient Greek statue. If the Discobolus bronze sprang to life, it still wouldn't be more dynamic. Leon mentally judged him. Not inferior to me. He couldn't help a friendly smile. "Don't be so wary, Clark. I'm a friend of your cousin. I came looking for you." "Fighting crime?" Superman's voice was flat. "Looks like the criminals are well organized this time, hiding in caves." Leon's smile froze as he scanned the cave. Broken cyborg, a watching Joker, a dying Mara, Batman lying prone. Was this some twisted Justice League civil war? Superman's aura was openly brutal. Batman clutched a Shabak crown in his hand. Superman's heat vision had been aimed at Batman. He'd been trying to kill him. The 2 giants of the League had pushed one another to the brink of death, while others, Cyborg included, lay like spectators. Where was Barry? Where was Wonder Woman? "Who are you?" Superman demanded, his tone killing any pretense. Leon stepped forward. "Before I answer, why didn't you bring Wonder Woman and Flash to your civil war?" Superman's gaze went cold. "It seems you are not under the command of the great Darkseid." That one sentence told Leon everything. This Superman was being controlled, and Superman had already got what he wanted. Before Leon could finish processing it, Superman threw off Deathstroke and shattered the ground with his next move. A charging hit from Superman was a force unlike anything Leon had heard described. Only Tony and Pietro had ever screamed monster, and I'm going to die when he'd told them about similar things. Now he felt it for himself. Superman broke the sound barrier in an instant. Air tore, light bent, and the sonic boom came after him. For a moment, the world itself seemed to part for him. Leon's reflexes kicked in. He felt his nerves sharpen, bioelectric signals spiking. The world slowed. Everything in the cavern stretched into near stillness. Superman's punch exploded with a speed that would have been hundreds or thousands of Mach, yet to Leon it hung motionless. Particles froze in the air, debris hovered. Everyone else's faces were frozen in terror and despair. Like a tableau of the moment, the beast went berserk. The last time Superman had lost control, Cyborg and Dr. Fate had fallen. How many would fall this time? How many lives would be ended before it was over? Leon widened his senses. He switched on his supervision and scanned the whole planet in a fraction of a second. Empty cities, endless parademen swarming, orbital extractors hovering and pulling at Earth's core. This world had already fallen. Even Paradise Island and Atlantis showed no life. Humans had been turned into parademons, mindless soldiers obeying Darkseid. Compared to the what-if zombie universe he'd been to, this was deadlier still. Barry, what had you reset? At least there were no full apocalyptian forces on the surface. Everything here seemed to be being carried out by a Superman under Darkseid's influence. That meant Leon could talk to him and get answers without immediately facing an entire invasion. He had barely scanned the planet before Superman reacted. The Man of Steel registered Leon's perception speed and adjusted. His fist resumed its arc, aiming straight for Leon's chest. Even stretched and slowed, the punch retained its impact. Leon didn't dodge. He caught the hook with his left hand, pulled a bottle of Zeus spring water from his belt with his right, and flung it to the old wizard at his side. Then he and Superman broke through rock and poured out of the ruined cavern. For everyone else, the moment was a blur. The cave trembled violently. Sonic booms, roars, and impacts filled the air like an explosion. It felt as if a missile had detonated at their heels. The force rolled them across the floor. Ears rang and heads spun. When the chaos ebbed, horror still clung to their faces. The silhouette of Superman was gone. Adam, now back to his normal size, winced as he pulled a long blade from the sole of his foot and looked around, dazed. Except for Batman and Deathstroke, the League's members were battered and barely conscious. Joker, as always, was an outlier, smiling, unbothered by pain. He skipped across the rubble, deliberately stepping over Batman's motionless form and humming a made-up tune. "A Superman with an S on his chest, huh?" Joker sang, voice light. "Looks like this world's getting interesting again, Bruce. Why don't you go say hello to the big friend you've missed so much?" Batman, small as his breathing was, appeared even less calm than Joker. But then Joker never knew calm. Chaos was his nature. Batman rose to his feet in silence, checked the crown in his hand, and slipped it back into his bag. His eyes settled on the old man who had appeared with the other Superman in the ruins. As Batman stepped toward the old man, he took in the ragged figure, white hair and beard almost hiding his face, carefully uncorking the jade bottle Lion had given him and inhaling it like a connoisseur. "You and that Superman in red, are you from the past?" Batman asked bluntly, his voice sharp. It was his default, casual and ruthless when he was out of armor, more composed but still flirtatiously arrogant, cold, merciless, and interrogative when he put the cowl on. There was only one category for him: threats and criminals. The old man didn't seem offended by the tone. He had other things on his mind. "Superman?" he scoffed, blowing his beard aside. "That's Shazam, you fool. He's my successor. You should call him the Great Shazam." Batman didn't rise to the insult. He pressed, "Is his name Lion Stark?" "Shazam! I said Shazam! Utterly foolish, utterly foolish." The wizard glared at Batman, then glanced at the jade bottle in his hand. His expression softened when he noticed Batman had no injuries. "Are you hurt?" "No." "Then move aside." He shoved Batman and hurried through the ruined chamber. He ran up to the limping Adam and barked, "Open your mouth." Adam, puzzled, complied. The old man tipped a single drop from the jade bottle into his mouth. Instantly, Adam's leg wound knit shut, and his stamina surged back to full strength. He gaped. "My wound? It's healed?" The wizard moved like a man with a list. He wrenched the knife from Mara's chest, blood streaming, but flicked another drop into her mouth. She stiffened, then gasped as her injury sealed and color returned to her cheeks. The wizard checked Dr. Fate and only shook his head. No need. Nabu protects him. He inspected Cyborg, frowned, and said, no need for that one either. He's not flesh. A repair will do. 2 drops used, the wizard carefully resealed the jade bottle and slipped it into his pocket. Lion had given him the life-laden elixir to save people. Having done that, the wizard felt satisfied and trotted out of the ruins. Mara and Adam looked at one another in astonishment. Cyborg's mouth twitched. Think that thing would have helped me too. But the old man was already gone. Cyborg began crawling to his lower torso to start manual repairs. Batman stepped over and handed him the detached unit. I'll go out and see, he said. That new Superman should be able to contend with Clark. I'll find a way to assist Kryptonite, perhaps. Batman stubbornly refused the old man's insistence that Lion be called Shazam. Deathstroke was already up. I'll go too, he said. Adam and Mara followed the others out of the cavern. Inside remained only Cyborg working on himself and Dr. Fate with his still wrenched neck. Outside, Joker sat cross-legged on a boulder as the old wizard shouted skyward, Transform into Shazam and fight him. Transform, boy. Shazam is invincible. Above them, the battle stretched beyond all memory. Even the Doomsday fight had looked modest in comparison. The sky itself seemed to crack. The high clouds were blown clear and the angles of refracted light warped. 2 dazzling silhouettes battled higher than the eye could track. Every impact sent an enormous shock down through the atmosphere, blasts that ripped from 100 miles above to the ground, sweeping the surface with wind that pushed at the world's skin. Each blow rang like a bell for an apocalypse. The collisions were not constant, but they were so catastrophic each time that the land shook as though inching toward fracture. This is Superman's true power? It's like the end of the world, Mara whispered. He's incredible, Adam said, awed. We can't face Superman, yet he's holding his own. Deathstroke removed his helmet. That's not necessarily good, he said flatly. Batman's jaw tightened. Earth's atmosphere can't support combat at this scale. They will destroy the ecosystem. He wanted to help Lion, but at close range they couldn't approach. Then what do we do? Adam braced himself as another tremor ran through the ground. If we stop Superman, we have to fight, and that will destroy everything. If we don't, Earth will be destroyed. They waited for a solution, but then the thunder overhead abruptly ceased. The 2 figures had vanished. Did the fight end? Mara craned her neck. No, Batman and the wizard said at once. They left Earth. They're fighting outside our world. The wizard stamped a foot and thumped his chest. That boy refuses to transform into Shazam. If Solomon's wisdom were guiding him, he'd have more chances to win. The old man wasn't talking about Shazam's other powers now, only about the transformation. To him, saving the world had to be Shazam's work. He wanted Lion to don the mantle and finish it. In the void of space, the fight had resumed with full ferocity. Lion's punch sent Superman crashing into the moon, plumes of lunar dust blasting into shadowed hollows. In the crater, Superman's suit was shredded. Heat vision lashed from his eyes in crimson beams. Lion answered in kind. Their optic rays collided, and Superman reeled, blasted square in the chest by Lion's heat vision with a cry. Out there, Lion could unleash more. On Earth, he'd held back, using a biofield to limit collateral damage. Here he fought unfettered. Among those I've fought, you're second, Lion observed calmly. Second? Superman spat back. He rose from the crater battered but pulling strength from the sun. His wounds seared closed under sunlight. Second to who? The worst was Dormammu, Lion said. Even outside his dark dimension, Dormammu towers above you. If Wanda fought you, depending on who strikes first, you could lose. Odin was only a skirmish. You're second. Superman didn't have time to argue. With a scream of speed and raw power, he launched again. His velocity and vacuum made the next punch capable of shattering the moon. Lion met the blow with his left forearm, and then returned a strike that hurled Superman like a meteor into the dark. Again, Lion shouted, and they traded blows across tens of millions of kilometers. Their fight carried from the moon toward Mars. Particle streams from their collisions lit the void. Flashes of freezing breath and heat vision marked passing moments. Superman grew stronger in the fray, every encounter pushing him higher. Lion, too, reveled in the challenge. He hadn't enjoyed a fight so much in a long while. He pushed, met, and matched until finally Superman's body gave out. The blue suit sagged in shredded rags. Clark collapsed, unconscious. Lion hovered over him for a long beat, chest heaving. "He's not inferior to Dormammu," he said, more to himself than anyone else. Once certain, Lion loosened his grip on power and flew back toward Earth, carrying the unconscious Superman. Outside the dark dimension, Dormammu's energy-based regeneration still lagged behind the raw solar recovery that healed Superman in sunlight. Lion had been reminded of that difference time and again during the fight. He watched Clark breathing shallowly, the sun already working its quiet repairs. Chapter 357, Heat Vision. Falling from the sky. The battle between the two Supermen had moved from the atmosphere into outer space. That was good news for Earth, at least in theory. For Batman and the others, it didn't feel like relief. The shockwave from the previous clash had swept across the globe and turned every parademon in the air into falling corpses. But as the two Supermen left, fresh swarms rose to take their place. The parademon tide wasn't dwindling, it was multiplying. Once there had been billions of humans on the planet. Now there were billions of parademons. Around Batman and his group, the sky was a roiling gray, millions upon millions of wing beats blotting out the sun, all of them heading toward Africa, toward Kandak. "I think we might have to bring out our wills and pin them to our chests this time," Adam Kairuyan muttered, swallowing hard as the buzzing grew louder. From horizon to horizon, parademons filled every view. They looked insectile, but they fought hard. Each one in close combat was roughly half as dangerous as Batman himself. "It won't help to pin your will anywhere," Deathstroke said coldly as he unsheathed a long blade and fitted a pistol to his hand. "No one living on Earth will read it, and it'll be corroded away in a few years." "Unless you had an unseen beauty on Apocalypse," someone joked. "Write her a will, asking to be reincarnated on Earth in the next life, so you'll have someone to love again." Deathstroke grinned at the lewdness. "If that's the case, tell me who she is, and I'll chop her into 7 pieces and bring her back for you." Mara snorted and shaped a circular wall of water in front of them all. Nobody was taking orders. Everyone was already geared for battle. They had run long enough. Their last hope, Black Adam, had been crushed the moment he tried. New Superman was their only chance now. If he fell, no scramble or sacrifice would matter. They wouldn't last a second against Superman. Better to spend whatever courage they had left on these parademons and, if they died, at least go down fighting for Lion. Batman didn't stop his teammates. Calm, controlled, he peeled off his torn cape and said quietly, "Then we leave them here." Even surrounded by millions, maybe tens of millions of parademons, and even though he was the only one among them without powers, Batman's voice was steady. He looked like a man who still had a plan. Thunder and lightning flashed in his eyes, but his face stayed as still as a lake. From a boulder, Joker gave a high, deranged whistle. He hopped down, swinging his hips as he walked up behind Batman. "The Dark Knight arrives," he crooned. "Ha ha! Laugh a little louder. I've suddenly taken a shine to you, Superboy Squad. As a present, I'll do a magic trick." The Joker produced 2 pistols from Batman's own pack, pressed the gun butts to his cheeks as if cradling them, and twisted his smile into something grotesque. At a time like this, why not laugh? If even Joker was preparing to fight, no one opted to withdraw. The black mass of the parademon swarm drew nearer until their shapes resolved, a dense weave of bodies, stacked and linked like fabric. When they dove, they fell like an endless ribbon of silk, pressing the air as they came. Joker's shots felled the first parademon. His laugh turned into something ragged and wretched, smeared with real blood. Adam enlarged, his body swelling until he was 10 meters tall, and his voice boomed as he met the first tidal wave of attackers. Every wave that crashed down brought at least a dozen parademons. Every punch from the giant Adam shattered one wave, but more came at his back and waist. Many carried laser guns. Every hit sent fountains of blood across his armored skin. Mara and Deathstroke were timely in their support. Blades flashed, bullets barked, and water lanced outward as dozens of parademons were flung off Adam's body. The team used Adam as a forward anchor. He took the brunt, and they defended the flanks. Batman fought in close, ripping weapons from 2 parademons and counterattacking with brutal precision. Joker fought back-to-back with him, laughing as he fired the stolen lasers. On the perimeter, the old wizard would bellow, "Shazam!" and summon a modest burst of magic to drop one or two attackers. When someone was badly hurt, the wizard lovingly produced a jade bottle and shook out a few drops of Zeus spring water. Together, they stemmed the tide, briefly. The Parademon swarm, dense as a flood, was forced back. But the crowd of monsters showed no end. The air around the ruined field grew so thick with bodies that nothing could pass through. The spring water ran out faster than they could pour it. Adam bled from more and more punctures. The others were nearly unrecognizable beneath wounds and grime. Flames of fury burned in Batman's eyes. They were burning themselves out to give Lion a chance. "Hey, Batman," Joker rasped, blood mixing with makeup at his mouth. "Looks like you'll have quite a few sacrifices this time." Batman silently pried a chunk of parademon flesh off his arm and fired, then glanced at Joker, whose abdomen had been ripped open and whose entrails already spilled. He asked the old wizard in a low voice, "Do you still have that potion?" "Still have it. Damn it, my successor after the restart still hasn't found an heir." The old wizard grumbled through his wounds as he chopped through a pair of parademons. "My successor's useless. If he'd transformed into Shazam, he wouldn't have lost." He prepared to feed Joker the potion when the sky split. Two red beams descended like knives, tearing through the dome of night and blasting the churning tide of parademons to ash. Heat vision. Every parademon under the beams was incinerated on contact. The twin rays widened as they swept across the battlefield, like the beam from a powerful flashlight thrown outward, clearing a few thousand meters in every direction. "Is it New Superman? Did he win?" Adam looked up, astonishment breaking into a long, relieved exhale. His enormous shoulders sagged, his body relaxed and collapsed to the ground. A dark figure was lowering from the sky. He emitted red heat beams, shifting them from downward strikes to horizontal sweeps. The parademons that had been the vanguard and almost overwhelmed them simply vanished where the light touched them, caught and burned in an instant, turning to drifting ash. Within breaths, moonlight washed over the field again. Silence fell. Tens of millions of parademons around Kandak had been erased. Batman stared at Lion as his breath caught. This Lion Stark, the new Superman Barry had spoken of, was more powerful than he'd imagined. Superman, the invincible icon, had been handled like a sack of sand in Lion's hands. The parademon horde that could have crushed them had been undone by nothing more than his gaze. If someone could control a being like that, the world would face an even greater catastrophe. Beyond exploiting Kryptonian weaknesses as a countermeasure, Batman had no immediate answer for dealing with Lion. Chapter 358, Restart World Line. Leon didn't know that the moment they first met, Batman had already been planning how to stop him. He glanced at Adam, who was still catching his breath. "I rushed back as soon as I heard you were in trouble," Batman said. "It looks like I arrived just in time," Lion replied. If it weren't for the danger facing the people on Earth, Lion might have kept fighting Superman a little longer. Amid Adam and Mara's exclamations of, "You came just in time, so powerful," Lion slowly descended and set the corrupted Superman he had been holding down onto the sand. Then he released his world power. In an instant, it swept the globe, erasing the remaining billions of parademons. No matter how many Apocalypse-modified super soldiers there were, they meant nothing to Lion now. Wiping them out was as easy as thinking it. "There won't be any parademons on Earth for now, until the enemy sends another wave," Lion said, looking from Batman to the others. "I assume you don't mind sharing what intelligence you have." They set up a temporary camp among the dunes and pitched tents. Lion released Tony and Diana, who had already regained consciousness from his inner world. "We all came from the timeline before the reset," Lion said. "Barry mentioned this to you." Introductions done, everyone gathered around a bonfire. Lion and his group sat on one side, Batman's team sat opposite. Dr. Fate had recovered. With Tony's help, Cyborg's lower body had been repaired. Batman had placed kryptonite on the unconscious Superman's chest. The corrupted Man of Steel lay in the center of the group, sweating and twitching even as he warmed by the fire. "Barry mentioned you," Batman said. "He said Lion Stark can cross resets and stop Superman." Batman still wore his cowl, a dark silhouette against the night. "That's right. His mother is with me. I was going to return her to him. Lion frowned. But Barry already sacrificed himself, didn't he? I searched the whole earth and couldn't find him. Batman was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Lion let out a long breath. How had things gone so wrong? He'd run off with someone's mother, only to find the person he meant to return her to was gone. How did he sacrifice himself? Tony demanded. Barry's ability is the Speed Force. Who could kill him? At first, when he emerged from the inner world, Tony had been giddy with relief. He had taken a lungful of the post-reset air and wanted to shout, "Uncle Tony is back!" Instead, all he smelled was ash and rot. As the situation unfolded, Tony and Diana both grew grim. Barry, Superman killed him, Batman said. Superman, everyone reacted. Batman pursed his lips. Barry went out to find kryptonite for the Resistance. Superman picked up his trail. To keep the Resistance safe, Barry tried to lure Superman away. And then, those kryptonite pieces he found were booby-trapped with tracking devices. Every time he shook Superman, the devices gave him away. Batman watched the fire, the flames throwing shadows across his face. He hesitated, then continued. Finally, Barry ran out of stamina. Superman caught up and killed him. The night wind whipped across the dunes, making cloaks snap. Tony stared at the metal-clad chest where the kryptonite rested. That kid, talkative, reckless, was he really taken down by Superman? Kara's expression twisted. Is he a Kal-El from after the reset? Is he really under control? Batman nodded. Kara sank a little. Before the world reset, her cousin had been killed by Zod. After the reset, Kal-El had been controlled by Darkseid. To her, it felt like the reset had been for nothing. Killing the Flash first in a major event. That's bad news, Tony said. Lion's mind was on a different detail. By the way, Barry's father, wasn't he acquitted and released from prison earlier? Batman blinked. He was released. Cyborg helped clear the supermarket footage. There was a clear image of Barry's father that served as an alibi. That's the problem, Lion said, covering his face. In the original timeline, Barry's father's face wasn't on any footage, so he couldn't be acquitted. Since he was acquitted, that means Barry still changed the past, Lion concluded. It looks like Barry didn't follow my advice. Meaning? Batman said, serious. We're not in the correct timeline, Lion said bluntly. Batman nodded. Whether this is the correct timeline doesn't matter now. Tell me everything from the start. What happened in your world before the reset? Batman told the story slowly. Darkseid's invasion began with a war between the Red Alliance and America. Red Alliance? Lion said, surprised. You mean that alliance survived? Batman explained. In World War I, an Eastern power unleashed a kind of steel battle armor that gave them decisive victories. By around 1990, most countries had joined a Red Alliance centered on that Eastern great power. Lion's eyes widened. Could Barry's changes to his father's fate have led to this survival? The Red Alliance's endurance would explain a lot. What about the island nation in Asia, the one that sank in the old timeline? Did it sink here? Batman shook his head. No, they were defeated in World War II and absorbed into the Red Alliance. Lion stroked his chin. The island nation he'd influenced had its fate overwritten by the reset, but the battle armor and technology he had given the Eastern power remained, maybe because those techs came from other universes and couldn't be wiped out, or because Barry's meddling created a different divergence. Diana, worried, asked, "What about Paradise Island? Are the Amazons still there?" Batman looked down. There are Amazons. There was another Diana. They sacrificed themselves. Were they killed by Superman? Diana demanded. Not entirely. You need the whole story, Batman said, and he began again. In the 1980s, a Kryptonian ship landed in a small Kansas town. A baby was adopted by the Kents. Tony muttered, "The classic beginning." Batman continued. Because America had become materialistic and violent, the Kents emigrated to the Red Alliance so their son could grow up in a healthier environment. Red Son Superman, then? Lion quipped. In a way, Batman replied. Superman grew up hidden among ordinary people until a Kryptonian fleet arrived and exposed him. He defeated that fleet, saved Earth, and became a hero. Over time, he and the Red Alliance worked together to create what many called a great society. But others feared him, Batman said. They worried about an alien god among humans. Some believed humanity didn't need a god and wanted to bring him down. Lion couldn't help but needle. Let me guess, Lex Luthor was the first and you were the other. Batman didn't answer directly. Luther and I joined forces and nearly killed Superman. And then you stopped? Someone asked. Batman looked haunted. Before he died, Superman called out the names of his parents and the woman he loved. I realized then he wasn't a god. He was human. Maybe more human than I was. What happened after that? Diana asked. Luther created Doomsday. Superman killed Doomsday, but in doing so, he sacrificed himself. Kara sprang to her feet. How could you? Carl was protecting you, and you killed him. Except for the Joker, who grinned as if at a private joke, everyone on Batman's side looked heavy-hearted. Batman's voice was low. The facts proved I was wrong. To protect Superman, the Red Alliance declared war on America. When Superman fell, the war had not fully begun, but Earth lost its greatest protector. A mother box opened a boom tube and Steppenwolf arrived. In the conflict that followed, the Red Alliance and Luthor's forces were routed. When Superman was resurrected, he defeated Steppenwolf and saved the world, Batman said. His eyes were hollow. But that was only the start of the disaster. He paused, and the flames painted his face in shifting light. Luthor, to dismantle the Red Alliance and finish Superman, he opened another boom tube with a mother box. Chapter 359, Chapter Luthor's Sin. Lex Luthor opened the boom tube, but that wasn't his original intention. I spoke with him before Superman killed him. To fight Steppenwolf, superheroes, including Superman and me, formed the Justice League. What Luthor really wanted was to dismantle every organization that could protect Superman and then kill Superman himself. The Red Alliance and the Justice League were both his targets. Even I find it hard to believe one man could go to such lengths just to kill Superman. Batman began to outline the divisive plans Luthor had set in motion. Luthor first found a master poisoner who survived World War I, Dr. Poison, an agent of Ares. She held a grudge against Wonder Woman, and Luthor exploited that grudge to pull her into his plot. Next, he freed Aquaman's enemies from Atlantis' desert prison, Orm, the Atlantean prince, and a mercenary called Black Manta. He had Dr. Poison develop a toxin lethal even to demigods and used it to kill Diana. He then sent Orm and Black Manta back to Atlantis to seize power from Arthur. Meanwhile, he declared war on the Red Alliance, tying up military forces. At the same time, he analyzed a fragment of the anti-life equation etched into the Earth's surface. His real goal was to control or even kill Superman with that equation. Batman finished in a single breath. Mara and the others had never heard any of this. They all cursed under their breath. Batman rested his chin on his folded hands and continued. Activating the anti-life equation takes energy. Luthor once used a mother box to convert a Kryptonian corpse into Doomsday. So he had Orm give him one of the mother boxes Atlantis guarded, the one of the 3 boxes. He activated it, intending to trigger the anti-life equation. No one expected that the mother box would open a boom tube directly. Darkseid himself came through. Hearing that, stunned silence fell over the group. The name Darkseid brought a helpless cold to their chests, the same helplessness felt watching a world slide toward ruin. And then what? There's no way Darkseid was controlled by Luthor, right? Tony asked. No, Batman said. Darkseid seized the fragment of the anti-life equation that Luthor had. What? Tony couldn't keep still. The anti-life equation? You mean that equation that can dominate the free will of all life across the multiverse is in Darkseid's hands? It's only a fragment, Batman said. He looked up at Tony. You seem to know a lot about it. Tony's neck reddened with urgency. He felt the impulse to grab Leon and rush back to his own world. It's only a fragment, but it's still the anti-life equation, he said. It's the supreme power in your universe. It encodes the logic of spiritual worlds and can control the minds of any who come into contact with it. Batman stood. It can control anyone who touches it? Not necessarily, Tony answered, and his tone suddenly shifted. He looked at Batman intently. He remembered who sat across from him, Batman, like a father figure to this universe. Others might be swept away by the equation. Batman might not be. This trick only works for you, Tony said. For me? Yes. When Darkseid tries to control you, if you say to him, I am Batman, you shouldn't be controlled. Batman stared blankly. The bearded man across from him might be a little unhinged. Leon laughed. Tony, maybe if you tell Darkseid, I am Iron Man, you'll be immune too. If I had the Soul Stone in my head, I'd be safe for sure. Tony quipped with uncomfortable self-awareness. Leon shook his head. In fact, an incomplete anti-life equation can sometimes be resisted by sheer will. Batman considered that. Clark showed signs of struggle when he was controlled by Darkseid. He did try to fight back. "It's just that," Tony began. "It's just that Lois's death weakened his will to resist," Batman finished, nodding. "Keep going," someone urged. "What did Darkseid do after he got the fragment?" Batman sat back down. Luthor realized what a catastrophe he'd unleashed and tried to bargain. He told Darkseid that with the anti-life equation, he could easily destroy Superman, that he could manipulate events so both aliens would fight and both would be crippled. Darkseid refused to kill Superman. He wanted submission, not death. Apocalypse forces launched a large-scale invasion. The war began. The Justice League mobilized and headed to the front. Superman sent Lois, who was pregnant, to the Batcave to be protected by me and Harley Quinn. Terrible memories rose up, and Batman closed his eyes. Superman expected to face Darkseid on the battlefield. But the tyrant, who had seen Superman fight Steppenwolf, took Luthor's suggestion in a different way. He targeted Superman's weakness, Lois. Darkseid himself attacked the Batcave. Lois died under the Omega beams. Harley died in my arms. Batman's voice scraped low and hoarse, as if each word cut through his throat. At that moment, Joker exploded into manic laughter. Wild, sorrowful, wordless. He laughed until he coughed, bent over in pain, tears glinting in his eyes under the moonlight. Batman paused to look at him, then continued. When Superman returned to the Batcave, he could only weep, cradling Lois's remains. Her flesh and blood had been completely evaporated. He shattered. Darkseid used the opening to take control of him. After that, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, and other heroes fell to Darkseid one by one. The whole Earth fell. Darkseid fused the three mother boxes into one, transformed almost all humans into parademons, and left Superman to watch over them. He sent his fleet to drain the Earth's core to extract the anti-life equation that was etched into the planet. Batman looked toward the horizon. Those ships are still operating even now. The Earth is nearly an empty shell. Silence settled again. Kara and Diana listened with trembling hearts. Neither had ever faced a tyrant like Darkseid, a butcher who razed worlds and wiped out entire races. Having just entered human society, the two women had encountered a darkness that slaughtered without mercy. Tony thought of Thanos, and the comparison made him shudder. Against Darkseid, Thanos seemed almost noble. At least Thanos had an ideology. Darkseid destroyed for dominion alone. Chapter 360. I have a special little Krypton. Liang, what should we do? Diana grabbed Liang's arm, her face set with the kind of steely resolve that meant only one thing: take Darkseid down. Let me think. Liang lowered his head, considered for a moment, then raised a finger. I have a plan. Every eye in the camp turned to him. No one wanted to cling to false hope, but it was impossible not to hope that Liang might have a way. Even Batman straightened and fixed him with a long look. Liang wiggled his finger. It's simple. We fight our way to Apocalypse and deal with Darkseid there. Silence fell like a cold gust. The night dunes around them felt suddenly emptier. The wind sounded like distant crows. Batman stared at Liang and felt, not unkindly, that Kryptonian's brilliant ideas all ran on the same kind of hubris. He chose his words carefully. It's a bold plan, but we could first take out the fleet that's sucking Earth's core. Disable Apocalypse's extraction fleet, clear the parademons on the ground, and slowly restore the environment. Lex had a gene bank ready before he died, and I salvaged the Red Alliance's gene bank before I came to Kandak. We can hold the Earth in a defensive war, then use the sperm and eggs in those banks to repopulate humanity. It was the most cautious strategic plan Batman could imagine right now. Mara slammed her spear into the sand and shot to her feet. I object. I support New Superman's plan. Batman, Earth is gone. The crust is empty. The people are gone. What Earth are you rebuilding? She slammed her spear again. We're a bunch of homeless ghosts. What's the point of breeding new people who don't remember the old ones? All we have left is hatred. New Superman is our hope, and he's the hope of revenge. I'll find Darkseid and make him pay. He killed Arthur. I want to drive my spear into his belly and see what kind of filthy blood comes out. Mara rejected Batman's gene bank strategy out of righteous fury, and because any new humans wouldn't be Atlantean. She was the last Atlantean in the world. Revenge was all she had left. Those on Batman's side were mostly Earthlings. Their expressions flickered between revenge and the cold calculus of rebuilding. They fell silent. Tony nudged Liang quietly. "Are you insane? You want to go after Darkseid. What are you thinking?" If this world could be saved, Tony would have poured everything into it. He could have made cloning rigs, Pym-assisted time experiments, anything. But this Earth was emptied and finished. The apocalypse had already happened. Going to Apocalypse now would be for vengeance, not rescue. And Darkseid had no personal grudge against their Marvel Earth. Is there something off about that? Liang raised an eyebrow and answered in a low voice. Tony, half joking, half exasperated, added, "Did Solomon's wisdom stuff a ton of muscle into your brain today? I've read the comics. Darkseid in his true form is multiversal. His death can crush worlds. You really want to hunt someone like that?" "That's when you face his true form," Liang said. "But that's the point. His true form can't enter our universe. What's here are clones. These apocalypsean duplicates aren't his true self. Across so many universes, counting reboots, hundreds, maybe thousands of Darkseids die every year. It's not impossible." Liang admitted his plan was reckless. He knew Justice League Dark. He'd seen the precedent where Superman and others went straight to Apocalypse and paid dearly. Deaths, captures, an injected kryptonite serum, Batman's mind corrupted, Wonder Woman altered. But the Darkseid they faced here was different. He'd shown some restraint even against Superman. He was powerful, but Liang judged he wasn't unbeatable. The real danger was the anti-life equation in Darkseid's hands. Its control wasn't yet perfect. Fortunately, the Starry Sky cultivation system that aided Liang had a peculiarity. The stronger his power grew, the stronger his will became. With Liang's current resolve, resisting control might be possible. And if it came to it, self-destruction was an option. Tony frowned. "Even if you could beat that tyrant, must we? This isn't our fight, Liang." He looked at the gathered DC heroes. Hatred soaked into each of them like fuel. They were smoldering, ready to explode, and the sight of their ruined, roofless Earth, its ecosystem shredded by the mother box, its core being harvested, made it easy to understand. If some cosmic madman had done this to the Marvel Earth, Tony admitted, he'd gladly throw on his armor and fight to the death. But this world was ended. Barry was dead. The Flash who could run time backward and restart everything was gone. If this were the Marvel universe, there'd still be tricks. Mobius loops, Pym tech, so many hacks. But in DC, there was no such easy fix. "Barry is dead, Mara." Batman's voice came like a tired bell. "We can't restart the world. If we go to Apocalypse now and are utterly wiped out, then everything is truly over." Mara shook her head fiercely. "No, it's not over. It's only the beginning." "Don't do it now," Batman said. "When Earth is all we have left, we are the spark. We must stay alive, burn like a wildfire, and rekindle this planet's life. Later, once we are stronger, these torches can burn Apocalypse to the ground." Even the grim Batman used the analogy of a single spark, fitting for a universe where the Red Alliance had been central. Mara sat back down, clearly convinced by that logic. No one else argued. They had, reluctantly, accepted Batman's plan. The wind over the dunes felt lonelier than ever. Liang suddenly cut through the silence. "Actually, without Barry, time travel isn't entirely impossible." Heads turned. "Have you heard Superman has a dog called Lil Crypto?" he asked. When they looked, Liang pointed casually at his side. "My Lil Crypto happens to know a little of the Speed Force." A Siberian husky rose up on its hind legs next to him. It glanced around with a superior expression, took a short, comical step, and then vanished into a blur of black and white wind. The gust circled the group several times, and the dog reappeared at Liang's side, wearing Batman's cowl, holding Mara's spear, and with Deathstroke's twin swords strapped to its back. Under that proud canine face, Batman, Cyborg, Dr. Fate, and others rose to their feet in instant alarm. "Speed Force!" someone exclaimed. Liang watched them carefully. He had absorbed Barry Allen's genes and, within his inner world, sparked the Speed Force with a bolt of lightning. In the DC universe, the Speed Force was born of Barry. Anyone who carried his genes, his descendants, those who had merged with him, could potentially tap it. The effect was limited to the DC continuity, but for the moment it gave Liang and his little speedster husky an unexpected advantage.